clever pun. The
conversation. Sorry about losing my cool. Sometimes I get very passionate about apes and monkeys. It's gotten me in a spot of trouble in the past.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Cameron Reigle.
And welcome to part 2 of our spotlight look at Star Fox Assault, the 2005 Namco-developed sequel to Star Fox Adventures that, of course, continued a lot of the narrative threads that Rare began in Star Fox Adventures, which in it of itself was somewhat of a sequel to Star Fox 64. It gets very convoluted when we're discussing the varying branches of the Star Fox timeline, not in the same like Zelda way, where it's just like, oh, in this timeline, Link just completely dropped the ball and allowed Ganon to take over or whatever. It's more just, there are a few games that take place after Star Fox 64, which is weird. Which is weird these days.
This is like weirdly the sort of only bubble of time where there was no room for confusion. It was just the games followed each other in order.
Yeah, and we kind of followed the journey of these characters we grew to like. And yeah, it is what it is. We're not bemoaning the fact that the new Star Fox game, out on June 25th, just does Star Fox 64 again. We're not bemoaning that, but this was in fact planned. We were doing the Spotlight episode once we learned that Fox McCloud was in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. We were like, there's our chance to finally talk about Star Fox Assault, because the initial idea of doing this began last year. We were going to do it for its 20th anniversary. And then, of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza was announced and all previous schedules went out the window. So here we are. This is the second part. On part 1, we discussed the origins of the game and how it began development, really the last year of Star Fox Adventures development over at Rare. There's kind of a parallel overlap of development time between the two, and I didn't know that. It was actually quite fascinating to sit with you, Cameron, because, I know quite a bit about the games we discuss, generally speaking, and even though I really love Star Fox Assault, as I said in the last episode, it is probably my favorite traditional Star Fox game, even though there's not much traditional about this once you actually get into it. But this is, I think, this and Star Fox Adventures comprise the bulk of why I'm really passionate about Star Fox. Not that I don't like Star Fox 64, and I don't respect Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, but I mean, it's these two games, and this is really what did it for me. And of course, it was like Rare sort of melding their dinosaur planet concept with the Star Fox mythology. That, also kind of tying it back to Diddy Kong Racing, which we might get into on this episode a little bit. But yeah, I love Star Fox Assault, but because of its origins, because of when it was developed, and because it was developed outside of like the windows that I can usually look out of, I didn't know half the stuff we talked about last time. That was really exciting for me. It was like an educational journey on my own podcast, which I don't often get to do. So thank you for that, Cameron. Go back and listen to the part 1 if you have not. On this episode, we'll start diving into the missions of the game, and we'll be following the chronological story of the Aparoids' invasion of the Lylat system. I think this story, we'll talk about it as we go, but it goes to some surprisingly dark places for a Nintendo game that's a sequel to one of their legacy franchises.
Yeah, absolutely. This feels like very, like, at times tonally different from something like Star Fox 64, while still, like, feeling like it exists within that world.
Yeah, it's still dripping in kind of the winky, knowing cheese of the Star Fox series, but then it really just keeps escalating the stakes. And before you know it, you're saying goodbye to some beloved characters. And you're like, wow, we're really just not leaving many sacred cows here, are we? And
there's some genuinely, like, shocking big swings in this, and also just, like, things that, like, effective, like, intentionally and to great effect, just make you feel like icky. And I think that's really cool about it.
Yeah, this does make you feel like you have insects crawling underneath your skin a little bit, which is what happens to some beloved characters in this game. We will be checking in with the live stream as we go. We live stream these for $5 and up patrons. Hello, Porygon Q. Hello, Chocolate Milk Drinker. We've got a bunch of people who have called in as well. Now, here's the absolute truth of the matter, Cameron. I do not know if we're going to go to 3 parts on this. I'm leaving it open-ended at the outset of this episode because I don't know how long-winded we're going to get about these missions. And particularly, there are some missions later in the game that I know you and I could talk about probably for a good solid 8 hours. And I want to leave enough room. And we also have calls. So there's a possibility that we will be splitting us into 3 parts. Maybe we will be doing these spotlight episodes up to the release of the new Star Fox game on the Switch 2 coming out June 25th. I do not know. But for now, we're kind of tentatively planning to do all the missions. But as I look at the show notes that you have devised, Cameron, part of me is thinking, I don't know if we're going to do it. We'll see. This might be a 3-parter after all. But, you know, that uncertainty, that's good because this game is full of uncertainty. As you mentioned last time, there are no branching paths. Just like the Star Fox timeline, there are no real branching paths. This is very linear compared to Star Fox 64 and the new Star Fox game on the Switch 2 called Star Fox, which is Star Fox 64. There is just one path from beginning to end. But I feel like, and maybe we can touch upon this when we have said it all, but I feel like that actually helps tell a more narratively engrossing story along the way.
Yeah, I think I agree, just because it has to be, because these levels have to be locked in, happening the exact time that they do, without any room for, like they have to lead directly into one another without room for you to have taken, like, a path A or B.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of locks it into a flow, whereas Star Fox 64 kind of has to be a little bit more episodic, with the exception of a few levels.
Right.
Which it does to great effect.
Yeah.
I think there are some games that handle that very poorly. Star Fox 64 handles it very well.
And maybe that kind of detracts from the replayability of this game, and that's why people keep going back to Star Fox 64, and why Nintendo keeps going back to Star Fox 64. I don't know. But I do think that this story has stuck with me more, and it's one of the best examples of what Rare set up during their partnership with Nintendo, kind of immediately being followed up on in a very successful, provocative way. And right. I think that kind of is why we're so discouraged when the reversion to Star Fox Zero happened in 2016. It was like, okay, but so many good things were introduced between Adventures and Assault, and respect for Command. I like some things in Command, you know. I don't hate Command. Let me just be clear. I made some comments last time that kind of were a little bit cheeky. I don't think Command is as successful as what it does as Assault or even Adventures are, but I do like some of the swings it makes, and I like some of the characters it introduces, like Dash. Now's not the time to talk about Star Fox Command, but generally speaking, I really love all of the elements that were introduced during this era of Star Fox, which we at DK Vine call the Dinosaur Planet trilogy, even though Dinosaur Planet really only comes into play in the first 2 games. It's still a thematic whole, and it's still like a narrative story from one game to the next to the next.
Yeah.
And then, of course, open-ended from there, where they could take it based on Command's endings. But yeah, I love this era of Star Fox. Not that I don't like Star Fox 64, and I don't like some of the characters from Star Fox 64 who don't appear in Assault. Like, I love Bill, I mean, it's just, God, something about this cast, something about this time period, and when they weren't afraid to push the envelope and really make you feel like nobody is safe. Doesn't matter that they're in Star Fox 64. They might not be safe. They might not make it out of this game. And I think that really made me want to keep playing. When I played through this 2011, I think it was, I said, shortly after Donkey Kong Country Returns had come out, and I reinvested in the concept of the DKU, and I was trying to really play through the games I hadn't finished completely back in the mid-aughts, and Star Fox Assault. I was like, wow, I did not expect it to resonate so hard with me. So I'm excited to talk about it with you, Cameron. I'm excited to reminisce and really shine a spotlight, as we do. That's why these episodes are called Spotlights, on an era of Star Fox that doesn't get enough recognition, but also sometimes gets a surprising amount of recognition thanks to the lingering ties via Smash Brothers. If it weren't for the Smash Brothers games, I don't think Star Fox Assault would get nearly as much recognition as it does.
Yeah, a fun little wrinkle I've seen come out of the Star Fox 2026 reveal is I feel like I've seen kind of a mini renaissance for Assault online.
Yeah, a little
bit.
I've
seen a new slew of like fan art and nostalgia for it, and like it just kind of cementing like, no, this wasn't just an also ran. This was a like treasured nostalgic game for a lot of people. And I would say, like, not only do I love Star Fox 64, I think in this time period where the series, even as it took like wildly different swings in terms of the type of game it was trying to contort Star Fox into being, the connective narrative tissue made it feel like everything mattered no matter what shape it took. And by extension, that also made it feel more like Star Fox 64 in itself mattered. This wasn't just another version of the Star Fox story.
Right.
This was like the key thing, everything kind of like what was the cornerstone of it all.
And I think what this game does as it begins with Mission 1, Fortuna, is that it really helps pick up after Star Fox Adventures, but it also immediately calls back to Star Fox 64, and it makes you recognize the lingering effects that game had on the Lilat system. And it really shows...
It's a very good mission statement level for what the rest of this game will be. Yeah.
If you had nervous traditionalist fans who didn't understand why the hell they did Star Fox Adventures, their concerns, I feel like, would have been calmed, would have been dealt with immediately. And for those who really love Star Fox Adventures and were just afraid that those elements were going to be discarded, you jump into this and you realize, oh no, wait, no, this is actually respecting everything that had been released up until that point. Which is the way to do it. We've learned that's actually the way you do it. Donkey Kong Bonanza, that's the way they did it, and look how pleasing that is to fans of all generations. So, yeah, maybe just don't discard stuff let that snowball build as it rolls down the hill. No snow on Fortuna, though. Surprising to some Western fans.
Yeah. So there was a planet in Star Fox 64 called Fortuna in English-speaking territories. That turned out to be a mistranslation or possibly like willful localization change of Ficina, which appears later in this game.
Yes. So this is actually one of the few times where Nintendo course corrects a mistranslation or something that had been billed one thing in the West, and then instead of trying to reconcile it, they're like, that was just a mistake. Ignore that.
Yeah.
Because even things like Peach has been referred to as Peach Toadstool to make the Princess Toadstool name that was pushed in English-speaking territories in Western countries from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s work, And no, this was just a botch.
Yeah, I part of me does kind of wonder if it was an intentional like rename based on a planet that had already appeared, because nobody says the name Ficina out loud in Star Fox 64.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they were like, we can't have a planet named Ficina, guys.
Let's get into Fortuna. So I like the way it's laid out because each mission begins with like a little like mission statement and a cutscene. And if you really want to know the story behind everything, if you really want to keep up with the lore, this game treats you, and like exactly what to expect heading into a mission, and you're not trying to keep up with the story. I mean, it's not a very complicated story. I'm treating it like it's something obtuse. It's things happen, and this mercenary team of pilots come in to deal with it. Oh no, bugs. So
it's also very neat compartmentalization for replay purposes, because usually all the exposition is contained in these pre-mission briefing cutscenes.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of sit and take in everything they're saying. It gives you the setup for what you're doing. Each level has a loading screen that kind of tells you in detail what you're doing and why. But if you are just replaying to get a better score, you can skip the briefing and just get right to the action.
Right. Yeah. I did get all the gold medals when I played this in 2011, and I think we'll talk about it for some of the later missions, but it's something I didn't think I'd be good at. It's something I felt like, oh, this is going to be one of those tasks that is just going to be insurmountable to me, because that's just not the way I play. I'm not into arcade style action. I'm not into racking up high scores. I'm here for the environments. I'm here for the storytelling. I'm here for the immersion. And it got surprisingly addictive. And once you got that flow, once you figure it out, like how to get those combos going to really rack up your totals, it kind of becomes addicting. And this game became addicting to me in the same surprising way that like Emerald Rush has become addicting to me. I mean, they play very different. There's different objectives, different ways to accumulate your scores, but I got the same kind of rush that took me off guard and surprised me.
I had the same sort of reaction where for ages and ages, I really didn't give the like medal scoring system the time of day, because I just assumed, well, I'm just never going to be good enough at this for it to be worth my time. Right. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here for the story. But as I engaged with it, it's kind of revealed to me, oh no, this is like where the depth of the game is. So much of the design is built around facilitating playing like this. And because of that, it has a really satisfying like flow state once you figure out what you're doing. It's kind of where a lot of the game's fun comes from, so long as you let that take hold of you.
Yeah, it kind of becomes like this almost highway hypnosis where your muscles just take over and you don't even recognize what you were doing, and you're like, you achieve this zen-like state. And I mean, you're blowing shit up, so I don't know how zen-like it could be, but it's still very almost empowering once you figure it out and once you start syncing with the game. And yeah, I couldn't believe how fast I completed this game in the winter of early 2011, and just how much I kept coming back to it, how much I wanted to get back to it. So when I say this is my favorite traditional Star Fox game, I think that is why, even more so than the story and the drama and the just overwrought emotion that it tries to elicit, although that is a big part of it as well.
So Fortuna.
Yes.
Mission 1 Fortuna, a new
Fortuna.
enemy. I feel like I can just kind of read the loading screen mission briefs for these, because they do kind of nicely sum up everything and kind of give us a roadmap.
Sure.
Mission 1, take out Oikoni. In orbit around the planet Fortuna, the Cornerian fleet battles Oikoni and the remnants of Andross's army. Search out and destroy Oikoni's flagship by using an R-wing to navigate the battlefield. If Oikoni flees, follow him or shoot him down.
Yeah, so already, we're tipped off that Andrew Oikoni.
Confusingly, if you're not in the know on the localization of these, they do almost exclusively refer to him as Oikoni in this game.
Yes. It's just,
it is a very like Peach Toadstool situation.
Right. So he dropped it a little bit. He shortened his name. He's now like Prince when he was the artist formerly known as Prince, and he was just the artist. This is just Oikoni now.
It also does kind of fit because at this point in time, as we'll get into, he's very much leaning into the legacy of I am Andross's nephew, and therefore important.
Yeah. So we have basically kind of a Nepo baby situation. I was going to say a fail son, but more of a fail nephew. And he's really trying to, I guess, January 6th, the Lilat system. I'm sorry for that analogy, but like he's using the remnants of Andross's various like militias and trying to basically start a coup.
It's genuinely really hard to avoid the real life comparisons here, because we straight up see in this briefing cutscene Andrew giving a live speech on what's denoted by the channel bug in the corner as ATV, presumably Andross television. Like it's the Lilat systems like in universe like OWN or Newsmax.
Yeah, not to be confused with the Fox News, the like literal Fox News we see later in the game. It is. I never picked up on the A in the like channel bug. You're right. It's Andross, like Andross truthers who are like, Andross did nothing wrong. Andross was perfect. It's a conspiracy. It's a hoax. It's a big Cornerian hoax. What took Andross down. And yeah, like we've learned in recent years, or rather we have been reminded of these historical cycles over recent years, that there will always be dead enders in any movement, in any like rump state of a failed autocracy or whatever. And so yeah, there would be remnants who would not be giving up the ghost of Andross. The ghost of Andross was already dealt with in Star Fox Adventures, by the way. So this is really just the legacy of Andross we are dealing with. And it's a really fun way to incorporate the Andross stuff into this game without it being the focus, without dwelling on it, without giving it all up to Andross yet again. Because spoilers, Andross is dead in this game. He does not actually show up.
Yeah, they really stuck to their guns that Adventures was supposed to be his last appearance.
And that's why I'm okay with what Adventures does. I know there are still people, mainly rare diehards, who don't like how General Scales was tossed aside, but I am a sucker for how they did it. And I mean, I'm also a weird person in that I don't care that they brought back Palpatine in the last Star Wars. I like this villain who is almost like a virus and he just won't go away. Even death doesn't stop him. And so, I like how Adventures dealt with Andros and revealed that Andros was behind everything as a ghost. I thought that was fun. It was weird at the time. And I also really like that Star Fox Assault leaves him dead and leaves that as his final defeat.
Yeah. And I also am sympathetic to the reason that they went that direction because, as we've learned from ample evidence of what Dinosaur Planet was originally meant to be, we know that Scales was always meant to be a fake-out villain. Yeah. And even though afforded the time to give him a real boss fight, they almost certainly would have, they were under such a development crunch because the game just had to be out before the buyout. This is a hard deadline. You do not get another, we'll punt it to next Christmas.
Right.
In this. But, speaking of Star Fox characters and mortality, so we did a kind of a cast overview in the previous episode, but in that I only really wanted to talk about the Star Fox team themselves.
Yes.
Because I knew it would get kind of overwhelming to just talk about every single character in the game in order.
Just to recap, by the way, the Star Fox team at this point, Team Star Fox, is Fox, Falco, Slippy, Crystal, who has taken over Peppy's slot in the R-Wing. Peppy is now kind of the guy in the chair on the Great Fox, and Rob64 is still by Peppy's side as well.
Right. So I thought a way to kind of more organically handle this is comment on the rest of the characters as the game introduces them.
Sure.
And in this briefing, we get reintroduced to both General Pepper and Andrew.
Yes.
And I remember being shocked by this in the pre-release period of this game. Pepper has aged terribly in the 1 year since Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, I see. I didn't know. Obviously, they do portray him as kind of a little bit over the hill, a little bit towards the end of his career here. And I don't know if that's just the way they made his skin sag because he is a dog and he's got that old dog appearance, but
it's hard for me to tell how much of this was intentionally trying to make him look old and how much of it was leaning into making him look like more of a bloodhound, because bloodhounds just look like this saggy, wrinkled, sad mess.
Right. Yeah, it's like we were talking about with Peppy. I'm never quite sure how old General Pepper is supposed to be, and it kind of shifts depending on the needs of any given game. And in this game, for reasons we'll eventually get into, they needed him to be near retirement age, and so they make him look like death warmed over. Literally, death left him in the microwave and his skin melted off into this puddle that just stayed on his face.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they want you to have in your mind that, this might, there might be a doubt in your mind that, no, General Pepper's too important for this to be the last game he shows up in, but, what if?
I remember, when this first started, the first thing that I noticed was General Pepper and thinking, The second thing I noticed was that the characters, their facial animation when talking didn't seem to match what they were saying, and in fact, the whole thing seemed broken. And I remember thinking, what the hell is happening? Why does this feel so off?
Yeah, it kind of made everybody feel very puppety and not in the intentional way Star Fox is kind of puppety.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it turns out there was a very good reason for that. Or, well, a very bad reason for that, I suppose. So I think I kind of stumbled onto this fact, but I was really made aware of how severely it impacted the game thanks to the good folks over at Transparency when they did their Star Fox retrospective. So, due to a really unfortunate fumble in localizing this game for the English language, so they lip-synced the briefing cutscenes to the English language audio, but in the process broke all of their facial animation, including even just the ability to blink.
It's bad. It's no wonder that this game was off-putting to people. I don't want to call this Uncanny Valley because they're all a bunch of anthropomorphic animals. So how uncanny can you really get with it? It's already pretty freaky, but yeah, it's so wooden and it's so... I don't even have the words to describe why it feels icky sometimes. You get used to it. You do get used to it.
I took for granted for so many years that this was just the way that the game was.
Yeah.
And then when you actually see the way it's supposed to be animated, you realize how much like subtle emotional nuance is just completely lost. And like, oh, that's why this felt like uncanny and out of body. It's because they originally did a very like body language focused thing here.
Yeah.
That's no longer there.
Yeah. And I think this is still from a time period where you did make allowances for technical limitations or things that didn't work in execution. And you're like, oh, well, whatever. Like nowadays, this kind of thing probably wouldn't fly. But I like I said, quickly got used to it. I pretty much got over it by the third mission briefing. I was like, okay, this is just what this game is. And then you do kind of get into the story a little bit more. But I think part of the reason in our brains, like the voice acting in this game in particular is often viewed as bad is just because of the animation not doing it any favors.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. And even like as harsh as I've been on like Jim Walker's performance as Fox in this game, which again I attribute more to direction than his own acting, you do realize like, well, no, the emotionality is not coming through because Fox isn't moving like a person.
Which does kind of help give the impression that Fox is trying to be a little bit more stoic and a little bit more of a leader at times compared to what a whiny little petulant child he was in Star Fox Adventures.
Right.
Oh, why can't I use my blaster?
But that does lose an essential component of Fox for me, which that is that he's not unflappable.
No, yeah. Well, he does get his flaps ruffled a little bit later in the game.
Not as many flaps as General Pepper's face.
No, but I think when the moment calls for it, Fox does bring the emotions when certain characters kind of meet some peril. And, I think
there's definitely a bunch, like quite a bit of mask slipping moments for Fox in this.
Yeah.
Where I do like, I kind of look at them and go like, oh yeah, that's the Fox I know.
So I think that the way I read a lot of this was just, okay, after the Saurian mission, after Team Star Fox kind of took on this renewed state of importance, this greater stature, then Fox tried to, like, wear that on his sleeve. He tried to, stand up straight a little bit and not be this schlubby, stale pizza eating, pin-up calendar oogling kind of frat guy he was prior to this. He's trying to be this. He's still a mercenary, but he's trying to be like this respected military leader. And
I think maybe also out of considering he was basically unemployed for 8 straight years, maybe it's a little bit of like, oh, I need like an air of professionalism about me to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Which does seem to be happening because he does just seem to be on call to the Cornerian military now.
Yeah. Well, they do seem busy. They do seem like they have been participating in lots of minor skirmishes, maybe, since the time of Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, they seem like they are a known quantity of, like, just the guys you bring in for, like, cleanup.
Which makes me wonder what's been happening in the year or so since Star Fox Adventures that they have been so busy. Like, what are they doing? Like, what is happening in a Lilat system that we don't know about?
Yeah. I'd also say, since we detoured into talking about the presentation in these briefing scenes, I feel like I have to bring this up somewhere because it is something that regrettably has always kind of bothered me about this game. And it's I mentioned in the previous part how this game makes some sound design choices I don't entirely find agreeable. I really do not like the filter they put over all of the voice acting in this game whenever they have to convey that it is over a communicator.
Uh-huh.
Because it does kind of sound like someone talking into a tin can on a string. And
right.
It's more distracting to me than it should be. I feel like something like the sort of muffled compression distortion in 64 worked a little bit better for me. And granted, part of that was just, it's a technical limitation that dialogue audio is compressed because it has to fit on a cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't really feel like a presence the way that this does. And I mentally tune it out a little while once I have played the game kind of like Banjo-Tooie's frame rate. But it does always bother me that this was a choice they made.
It's weird because I don't think I ever really noticed it. And, maybe it's just I immediately get into like the white knuckle action. And so it's not something I dwell on. But it also just might be because I don't know. It's just we all have our different pressure points. We all have different things that aggravate us or that we will focus on, and other people just don't have that problem. And I never really noticed how muffled their voices were coming over the comms. And it's interesting. I do think it's funny that they don't have better communicators when we see in the intro cutscene that they have mastered wormhole technology.
Yeah. You and I are having better audio quality on this call than they do.
And yet we can't build giant green wormholes in space. What are we doing? It's like the Star Wars paradox, right? Like Star Wars is this technologically advanced spacefaring galaxy-wide civilization, but all of their computing technology is just stuck in the 1970s.
Yeah, this intro cutscene is still kind of like reinforcing that like teleportation, like large scale teleportation, is something that exists in the Star Fox universe.
Yeah,
that seems like a kind of fraught thing to introduce into your sci-fi universe because it kind of just makes you beg the question: well, like, why does anybody travel anywhere?
Well, I imagine it takes a lot of power. We later learn like how the wormhole is generated. And it becomes a somewhat well-known location.
Yeah, that's what makes it work for me, is it kind of establishes, like, you need a ton of setup and real estate to make this work, and it has to be completely unimpeded or it will go catastrophically wrong.
Right. And of course, it's controlled by the military, so it's not something that's just available for public use.
It makes sense of why in Star Fox 64 they didn't just teleport straight to Venom. It's because they would have gotten shot down if they tried.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with the gate in this game. And it does like create a lot of cool visuals, and there's a cool mission later in the game that kind of centers around it. So yeah, it works for me.
I really like the presentation of it as sort of like this like film that you like break through and come out the other side like it's not that you are being like beamed in particles and reassembled. It's kind of like just opening a door to a different part of space.
Yeah, it's a wormhole. It's just basically like folding that piece of paper and breaking through both sides of it until you're all the way on the other side of the Lilat system, or maybe even outside of the Lilat system, depending on how much juice you give it.
Yeah, so going back to General Pepper.
Oh God, do we have to?
Yeah. I talked about all the the voice acting for all the other characters. I feel like I have to for these newcomers as well. He's played by an actor named Gray Eubank. He seems to largely be like a screen actor, but I couldn't find any other project on his IMDb that I recognized. And this is one of those performances that's very different from how he sounded in previous games. But I feel like it kind of demands it because they took such a wild swing with his character design. I could not imagine Star Fox 64 Pepper voice or even his Adventures voice coming out of this version of Pepper. He's very, and this makes sense because he's so jowly now, he's very like Richard Nixon impression. He sounds like Billy West playing Nixon in Futurama.
Ooh, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all know it. We all love it. I never made the Nixon connection, and I think it's because I have too much respect for General Pepper. I mean, yes, I know, like, Nixon did good things in China, EPA. We look back on Nixon now, and we're like, well, I guess it could get worse. But it is funny, though, like, he's well, I don't want to get into spoiler territory with what happens to General Pepper, so I'll save my jokes for when we get there.
Yeah. And in this cutscene, we also have the first appearance in this game, as we established, of Andrew Oikony.
Yeah.
First time we've seen this guy from the shoulders down.
That's true. Actually, this is the first time we've seen anybody from Star Wolf from their shoulders down, right?
With the exception, I think, of Wolf, because he was in one frame of the intro in Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Oh, that's right. Right.
But for reasons we'll get into it, he's very, very different in this game.
Yeah.
I think he is, like, adequately goofy looking.
Yeah, so he's basically he's a macaque, right? He's like a Japanese macaque, as far as a monkey goes. And I mean, maybe he's a different type of baboon. I don't know, but he looks like he is just the most self-important, pompous, like, weenie that you've ever seen. Like I called him a Nepo baby before, but I think the render of him really helps sell that, because he's kind of like holding up his head and he's looking arrogant, but he's got his arms crossed. He's got that like insecurity. He's like, no, I'm tough. I'm the heir to Andros.
His outfit is also what I feel like I see all the time of like the tacky person's idea of fancy.
Yeah.
Because he's got this like very shiny, very metallic outfit with a yellow scarf, but he's got like these like short shorts that truncate at his like leg armor and these goofy big red boots. In my show notes, I wrote that he looks like spindly space Ronald McDonald.
Right. His legs, does he have prosthetic legs?
I think he's just very, very thin.
Okay, because everybody makes jokes that Fox McCloud has like robot feet, and I'm like, no, he just has metallic
not
boots.
so much anymore, but
but like, no, he just has metallic boots. But with Andrew in this game, it does look like he has like prosthetics or artificial like mechanical legs, but it might just be he's got very spindly legs and he's got like armor on down there. But yeah, he looks like he's wearing khaki shorts.
Yeah. And he's played by John Hugel in this game. Another actor, seems to mostly be in film stuff. Could not find another part of his I'm familiar with. Plays him very differently from Star Fox 64, but like also still very screechy, whiny, entitled, self-important. So it definitely works for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we kind of got into with Andrew being a Nepo baby fail nephew, so we kind of knew, if you were following the pre-release period of this game, that the new enemies were going to be the Aporoids. Up to this point, if you were only playing the game or reading the manual, it hasn't really let on at all that Andrew is not the true antagonist of this game. But you can pretty immediately pick up some clues narratively that this is not a serious threat. This is like the desperate final power grab of somebody clinging to their declining status.
Right. Because again, this is 8 some years after Star Fox 64. So, at this point, they're basically just, their movement is just running on fumes after Andross has been defeated. And I don't even think they know about the whole Saurian business. Like, I don't think they would have ever made public what happened on Sauria, and that it was Andross behind everything. Yeah. So, I mean, it's possible they do know, and that's what's given them this renewed vigor. But it's never brought up.
Maybe, and I think we're far from the days of the, Farewell Beloved Falco manga, where you had Andross loyalists so, deeply devoted to him that they were going to make a clone of him to lead their forces again. In the briefing cutscene, they're very quick to point out, because Slippy mentions he's surprised Andross's army had so many remaining loyalists to his cause, and Peppy's very quick to point out that no, these aren't actually people who are bought into Andross's rhetoric or his importance as a person or his legacy, any of that. They're just a bunch of dime a dozen mercs that Andrew has paid off to work for him.
Yeah, this is something that the game really does explore, I think, greater than any other Star Fox game, and that's the role of mercenaries and space pirates in this world, in the Lilat system. We really get into kind of the seedy underbelly that Starwolf operates in quite a bit in this game. And yeah, a lot of these are just, for hire villains who aren't really believing in the cause of Oikoni, of Andross. And so I do like that. I like too that this is somebody who is pre-established in the universe of Star Fox in this franchise, and it's taking a very minor villain from the first game, the third most notable person in Starwolf, and he's trying to elevate himself into the series antagonist. How do you think that's going to go for him?
Right, and if you have that context from Star Fox 64, you know who Andrew was as a character in that game. He was the most toothless member of Starwolf, and you know that because every member of Starwolf in that game had a designated member of your squadron they would target, and he would target Slippy because he was the easiest target to bully.
Yeah, I would say his Nepo baby status is the only reason I might place him above Leon in Star Fox 64, just because it's oh yeah, that's Andross's nephew. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think Assault outlines this, but we learn in the manual that he was kicked off of Starwolf.
Yeah.
And we end up learning through Smash Wii U's trophies of all things that it's pretty much exactly why you would expect him to get kicked out, which is that he was a smug Nepo baby, always trying to throw around the weight of, I'm Andross's nephew.
Right.
And everybody was sick of his attitude, and he didn't have the piloting experience to back up the fact that he was insufferable to be around. So, like, everybody would just kind of seem to think, well, you're insufferable to be around, and also you don't contribute, so you're out.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that he goes this route after being fired from Star Wolf, like, what do I do with myself? Well, I guess I have no point but to become I have no recourse but to become a fascist dictator, just like my uncle. Like, how does he think this is going to end for him? I don't know, but it is like the Peter principle. You know, people get promoted to their area of incompetence, right? Like, eventually you are in over your head and you don't realize it, especially if you are an idiot and you don't realize your own limitations.
So yeah, once the briefing's done, we actually get into the mission itself. And we do see in like this one-time cutscene kind of what it's like for these R-Wings to launch from the brand new Great Fox.
Mm-hmm.
I really think this launch sequence is cool and highlights how neat the R-Wing design like ethos is in this game. I love how when they kind of take off from the Great Fox, because they've been redesigned so that they're kind of vertically symmetrical, where the like blue fins are like stick out as much on top as they do from the bottom. So when they launch, they kind of like unfurl like a flower or a butterfly. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the designs in this game. Everything is so shiny too. It's very just like polished, and you definitely get the sense that we are in a new golden age for Star Fox, for the Team Star Fox, and this is not the fumes they were running on in Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, and so the structure of the level we're going to get into is very fun because it's sort of a mix of familiar Star Fox trappings and just straight up brand new territory and remixing.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the levels that does just have from beginning to end new compositions for its background music. But it also immediately begins with Slippy in trouble, just like in Star Fox 64.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of things thrown into this mission that I feel like are there to feel familiar to the player and to kind of bring them back a little bit and make them remember why they fell in love with Star Fox 64 in the first place.
Right, while also clearly like making the statement of intent. This isn't just going to be us regurgitating these. We're going to reflect it like, yeah, all the characters have also seen all this before.
Yeah, we wouldn't
when
want
something new shows up, they're going to be on the back foot.
We wouldn't want to regurgitate Star Fox 64 now, would we?
Yeah, so we kind of, in the manual and in the setup, we were kind of led to believe the reason that Corneria is having problems with Andrew's army is because they're using guerrilla tactics, which seems to amount to they have like new and stealth tech that they just didn't expect them to have. In this space battle, you fight like this they really said they have this like very Gundam-esque like prototype mech that fires a big laser, which will become important later.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a stealth bomber squadron, but obviously this is absolutely nothing Star Fox can't handle. They just kind of, if you're playing well, destroy everything very handily. So Andrew ends up fleeing to Fortuna, and this in itself is a pretty big deal if you've been following Star Fox up to this point, because, like we said earlier, a localization wrinkle aside, Fortuna was not a planet that was in 64. but it is a planet that was in Star Fox for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's going all the way back to 1993, and so much of Star Fox for the Super Nintendo is kind of just brushed under the rug a little bit because Star Fox 64, I was going to say immediately, it was 4 years later, but effectively in the chronology of the series, immediately sort of displaced it as like, no, this is what happened. This is actually what happened. This is a clearer look at what happened. Forget about Star Fox. And I've always argued you could, if you really want, reconcile the two, but nobody's interested in doing that anymore, especially now that we have yet another iteration of the story coming. But to have a location that was then discarded actually brought back, that's kind of cool.
Especially because, like, the Star Fox 64 look of everything, every returning locale has kind of cemented itself as, no, this is just what they look like. And I think a big part of that is a lot of Star Fox for the SNES, owing to technical reasons, is very abstract.
Yes.
But this does kind of reconcile what Fortuna was in the SNES game, because it was notable as being like one of the few planets you went to that was very like verdant, lush. It had like clean water. But they did have to massage one very notable detail for very apparent reasons.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll just read how planet Fortuna is described in the SNES manual. Fortuna is also known as the dinosaur planet and is prowled by untamed and brutal creatures. Andros has fed and gained control of these brutes and plans to turn them into living weapons. So, yeah, only room for one dinosaur planet in this Lilat system.
So weird. This is such a weird... It almost feels like Hiccup in time, like somebody went back and accidentally stepped on something, and that's why this artifact exists. Because what the hell? Rare wasn't aware of this, as far as I'm aware, and like Nintendo never came to them and said, hey, you're making a game called Dinosaur Planet. Did you know? Given that we just talked about how Nintendo must have this very comprehensive Star Fox lore Bible to keep a lot of these details consistent, and they completely missed that there was a planet called the Dinosaur Planet, which, by the way, in the manual, the term Dinosaur Planet is a proper noun. Dinosaur Planet is capitalized like it is in Star Fox Adventures, as it was in the game Dinosaur Planet that Star Fox Adventures grew out of. And this is just one of those weird things that doesn't feel like it should actually be true. Like, this should be somebody edited a wiki and everybody just believed it.
Right, or something from like a fanfic that just like kind of got absorbed into the greater understanding of what it is.
But it's absolutely true. We have the hard proof. The hard printed proof is out there. And I just don't understand how this all happened. And the only thing I can think of that might make any sense is when Rare was developing Dino Island, which is the game that eventually evolved into Dinosaur Planet. Timber became Saber and so forth. They subconsciously remembered that there was this reference to the Dinosaur Planet in the Star Fox manual, or excuse me, the Lilat Wars manual for them, and just kind of made the connection.
Star Wing for the SNES version.
Star Wing. Oh, excuse me. Yes. See, there's so many damn names.
It's so confusing.
God. You're right.
The new game is the first game Europe is actually getting just named Star Fox.
And good for them. That's why we need this version. That's why it's being done. Just to clear it all up for everyone. But it is, like, possible that the Dinosaur Planet team remembered this and saw the parallels with what they were doing with this, like these anthropomorphic animal characters who were very evocative of Star Fox, and maybe that's how they stumbled upon the Dinosaur Planet name, and they didn't realize it, they didn't remember it, and then Nintendo looked at it and they're like, that would look like a good Star Fox game, not realizing the connection was right there. They could have made Dinosaur Planet Fortuna.
In a series that is unusually adept at not letting things like slip through the cracks of the floorboards, this is a big one.
But you know what? It's one of those things where we just have to say the instruction manual can be overwritten in canon if it's not brought up in game. And I think Soria as its own planet, it works, and you know, I don't actually begrudge them not making this retcon that the location in Star Fox Adventures was Fortuna, because it's never brought up that it's Fortuna, even though maybe it should have been at the time, but the fact that it wasn't, then just leave it be and just supplant Dinosaur Planet to Soria and leave Fortuna as its own kind of jungly planet.
Yeah, I appreciate that they diversify the two enough to kind of give them their own space. So what they do with Fortuna in this game is they drop all of the like dinosaur-like native wildlife. In the SNES game, there were like pterodon enemies.
Yeah.
And like a two-headed, like winged dinosaur-esque boss, like called a giant dragon, Monarch Dodora. But we don't really see any like prehistoric-looking wildlife. The vegetation doesn't look prehistoric. It just seems to be like a very lush, mostly like untouched by like sapient life planet that is very green, abundant in vegetation and clean water. And for 2005, it is very pretty. The level kind of just opens up with a money shot of how this planet looks.
Yeah. I think this goes a long way towards dispelling any lingering doubts about the visuals of this game for those who are still like hung up on the presentation when it was Star Fox 2. And you jump into this, you're like, oh, okay, no, this actually looks great. It is very much of the era. It has that kind of washed out color palette that a lot of games had across all the consoles during this time, and that Rare somehow circumvented. And, you know, Star Fox Adventures was a very colorful game, and this is very colorful, but it does have that palette that feels a bit muted at times. But that's not to take anything away from how this looks. I'm comparing it to Star Fox Adventures, which isn't fair. For what this game is, and the genre it is, and the amount of action that's happening at any time, I think it looks great.
Yeah, it's a genuinely good, like, great first foot forward for this game. And I also think it's neat that structurally, this level, again, in feeling like it's a calling back to Star Fox 64, but putting a little twist on it, I feel like there's sort of a deliberate like reverse of what Corneria was in the first game.
Yeah.
Where Corneria had already been severely decimated by an invading force, Andross's army, and you were basically there to be the last-ditch effort to get them out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Andrew fled to the planet, and it looked like it was just a straight-up retreat. What's actually happening is he's established a new base on this planet that is just churning out an armament of ships, tanks, and mechs, and is basically trying to bait you into coming to his front door where they were all, like, unload on you as soon as you come in.
Right.
And Crystal even gives you a heads up that this is happening, which I think... I don't know if that's like them kind of seeding the telepath part of her character, because she tells you like, hey, they're just waiting to ambush us before the door even opens. or if she's just really good at reading the sensors. But it's a fun little thing they do with her.
Yeah, Crystal, I really like the role she serves on the team. I think it's refreshing. I think, we talked about their intentions on the last episode we did, and we talked a little bit about is she going to be the sister or the mother? And that's all, water under the bridge, because I do like the whole role she brings, being the telepath and being kind of the one who has these precognition abilities and who can kind of see things right before they happen. And it's a little bit refreshing to not have a character always being like, what? There, like, at this point, I think some of these people on Team Star Fox should have that sixth sense of, hey, something doesn't feel right here. They're pretty much going to jump out at us at this point. So it's nice to have Crystal there to be like, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Get ready.
Yeah. I had, in my earliest memories of this game, kind of remembered Crystal as still being pretty ill-defined, but looking at it through fresh eyes, no, they do a lot of legwork to give her a character here. It's just, a lot of it is either not straightforwardly just talked at you, or is lost because they broke half the character animation.
Yeah. I would also say Crystal maybe doesn't get enough due simply because she isn't one of the returning Star Fox 64 characters. And so much of our idea of the Star Fox cast is from their very quippy, very memorable quotes from Star Fox 64, where they all have their kind of funny one-liners, and Crystal doesn't really get a chance to be a cut-up at any point.
We're coming in knowing what the team dynamic was.
Yeah.
And kind of all eyes are on her, asking, well, what do you do?
Right. And she is, it is the trope, right, that girls grow up faster than boys do. And part of it is just boys are allowed to kind of have that state of arrested development, whereas girls are expected to get their shit together and be more professional, be, not as juvenile.
We even kind of see that play out in that aforementioned scene where Slippy just immediately needs to be bailed out like he did in Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
Because if you fail to save him in that moment, Crystal does just kind of admonish him that, yeah, this happened because you're being a reckless flyer. You should be more careful.
Which is like, at this point, why didn't Peppy stay on the team? Why wasn't Slippy the one who was just like, I'll stay on the Great Fox and be, the tech guy? 'Cause Slippy kind of sucks at this. And, I understand it's there for the purpose of having to save him and him being the one who gets into peril the most.
And I think everybody on the team also, like, the difference between Star Fox and Star Wolf is even if Slippy's not the pitch hitter on your team, you like him enough that you want he's their friend. They want to see him get better. They want to give him a chance.
He's the Ringo of Team Star Fox. He's not the best at what he does, but he is the glue that holds them all together.
And also, he does scan the boss hit points.
Yes,
so he is genuinely useful to have in the field, just maybe not as a combatant.
And Ringo was genuinely a great drummer. Don't get me wrong there. I just, compared to the talents of the others, it seems like he has the least amount of role, but they would be lost without him.
So, at the end of this base, we find the boss of this world, which is, I was only able to find some of these names in ancillary, like, Japanese material on the R-Wingpedia, but they do exist. Boss Death Baboon, which reveals that, the flagship Andrew was flying away in is secretly, in part, a transforming mecha that takes the now very, very familiar shape of a head and hands boss in the visage of Andrew himself.
Yes, so this is basically Andrew finding a way to contort himself into the classic Andros boss fight, as seen in Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Adventures. The head and hands. I mean, it looks like what if Andrew became Andros and became this, like, entity, this floating head, and it's achieved through technology rather than whatever weird alchemy of mad science Andros had going on to achieve that. But I love this. I think it's such a nice, fun way to kind of mark, like, especially coming out of Star Fox Adventures, it's like we end with that and we begin with that, but it's done in such a kind of pathetic way here, because he is just this weak man hiding behind technology and privilege to achieve this intimidating effect.
Yeah. It's a genuinely cool, like, mecha design, but in universe, like, throughout this boss fight, it's apparent nobody is taking this seriously.
Right.
Except Andrew himself. Like, Falco even calls him an Andros wannabe the second he sees what this thing is.
Yeah. I think it's funny because this is clearly a threat, right? This is a threat to the Lilat system, but to Team Star Fox, to Fox and Falco in particular, they have just gone through something that's more terrifying than this.
This is Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby. This is...
Yeah. Like, they just dealt with this a year ago, and it was through some, like, magic Krazoa shit that, like, defies the boundaries of life and death. And so, compared to that, this is just a laugh, and so they're not that worried about it.
Yeah, and, like, completely in character. All of his attacks are very screamingly obviously telegraphed. His weak points are big and glowing. In the event he actually hits you, he'll get, like, kind of smug about it, and one of the, like, he'll do the, like, pointing to his own head gesture of, like, I'm so clever to taunt you. It's so pathetic and funny. It's great. And this boss ends before you can even finish it, because he gets shot in the back by the real enemies of this game.
Yeah, I never really put together that he himself gets general scaled here, where just like Andros deprived you of a full General Scales boss fight. Granted, you get to fight him a little bit more than Fox got to go with General Scales. But it is kind of like almost karmic payback to the Andros family for what they pull. It's like, oh, you think you're the big bad? Not this time.
And you do get the fun, like, Star Fox 64 callback of him screaming Uncle Andros as he goes down. Like, I'm not above laughing at that. That's fun.
I don't think he's going to help you this time around, buddy.
So, yeah, we enter our new boss. You just fight this one after the other. Boss Zegdalia, which is a giant, like, alien butterfly-like creature that's just kind of screeching at you.
Yeah.
And Fox, Slippy, and Crystal don't know what this is. Peppy and Rob do, and they are very, very concerned. We don't quite know why just yet.
Mm-hmm.
I did find some interesting, like, trivia to divert from the subject on this this fight. This actually has a pretty significant localization change, and a kind of good one. So in this cutscene, at first, when Andrew gets shot down, Fox wonders, oh, is this Cornerian reinforcements? It becomes very clear that it's not, and it fires on Crystal, who kind of swerves the R-Wing out of the way at the last second. In the Japanese version, this asteroid shot at Slippy. And the reason they changed that in the US version is because Slippy can get shot down in this level.
That's right. It can
because you
happen
have to bail him out
immediately.
twice.
Yeah.
It can happen almost immediately, and then you have to bail him out again once you're on the surface. So what that does in the Japanese version is if Slippy is down, the asteroid just fires at nothing, which is a very confusing scene.
Yeah, it's a really terrible way to make an entrance, but yeah, it's probably good that they changed it then. Yeah,
it's a smart swap out, and like Crystal dodges the fire, so it doesn't feel like they just like victimized the woman on the team either, because she is a mission character that cannot be shot down in this mission.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they beat the boss, and it drops something called a core memory. It looks incomplete. For whatever reason, Peppy is very urgent that you need to grab it. I'm not entirely clear what a core memory is in the context of this game. I kind of just take for granted that it is like some type of alien biology inherent to the asteroids.
Yeah. Yeah, the asteroids, and we can talk a little bit about it as we go on, like what the asteroids are, but they're kind of a mishmash of different insectoid sci-fi tropes, and also like mixing in some other kind of extraterrestrial...
Even some like microscopic organism, like virusy elements to them.
Yeah.
Which, purposeful, but...
Yeah, it's not just like the bugs from Starship Troopers. There's a little bit of like aliens, like from the Alien franchise in there, in like the incubation, and it's interesting, and it's a very diverse kind of enemy because they can do quite a lot with it.
Yeah.
And I just took like the core memory to be like a convenient way where you can then like read their thoughts effectively and kind of get to know what they are.
Like finding like their intact brain and like putting it in a jar.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. It's again nonsense, but it works.
Right. And yeah, they have to get out of there very quickly because the last scene of this mission is showing the same creature you just defeated is now swarming the planet in droves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was the big boss that took out what we thought was the boss is actually but a drone, and like this is a full-scale invasion.
Right. And I think it will also become important later that the asteroids do diversify their forces as they go, so it's notable here that it's just the same identical creature, but a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this mission 2, Katina, Frontier Base Battle. We get a briefing scene, which is kind of directly addressing the fallout of what just happened in the last mission, where suddenly this is no longer easy cleanup of the last gasp of a dying force. This is a grave new mass galactic threat, and to convey to us the seriousness of this threat, General Pepper brings in the Cornerian Army's research director, none other than Slippy's father, Beltino Toad.
Beltino Toad. Now, this character, this is his official, proper debut in a video game. He's never appeared in a video game prior to this, but Beltino is interesting. When we talk about, well, Nintendo must have this very comprehensive lore Bible for Star Fox because they're very consistent, the dinosaur planet thing notwithstanding. Beltino is kind of like what rises to the top of all of that as like definitive proof that, yeah, they actually do have a lot of the backstory of the characters and this world figured out, because Beltino had been in the Star Fox lore prior to this, just never in a game.
Right. Like, he existed entirely as, like, a text-only ancillary media character in, like, players' guides and promotional websites that explained him by name to be Slippy's father, the director of engineering at Space Dynamics, the company that developed the R-Wing, and the co-designer of the Blue Marine, the machine you pilot on Aquis in Star Fox 64.
Yes, and I also like that this helps distinguish Slippy as not as much of a Nepo baby, considering Slippy went freelance. Like, I'm sure Beltino could have got Slippy in the door, you know, at, like, Space
Especially
Dynamics.
since Slippy is genuinely, like, demonstrably a brilliant engineer.
Yeah.
It does seem like this could just be a very comfortable lifelong career for Slippy, but he would rather be with Star Fox.
Yeah, so, I mean, props to Slippy, gained some respect there, especially compared to Oikini, but I love the design of Beltino because there's some nonsense going on here, Cameron.
This is such an indulgence in cartoon animal. He's very fun.
Yes.
So obviously he looks a lot like Slippy, but he's also got these very angular giant glasses and a pencil-thin John Waters-y mustache.
Why does a frog have a mustache? What sense does that make? Who cares? Because he's not actually a frog as much as he is this humanoid frog.
Does Slippy grow one of these? Does he have to shave it off every morning? What's going on there?
That's the implication. Or is this kind of like an aesthetic thing that Beltino draws on every morning? Like
prosthetic science mustache.
Either way, it says a lot about Beltino that he's got it. And the thing is, what really completes the ensemble for me, I love the glasses. I love that he has to have these very peculiar shaped glasses because of the shape of his frog amphibian head, but also his tie, his necktie is a thing of beauty because it's kind of like, you know how in like sci-fi futuristic stories, even in Star Wars, you saw this a little bit in Andor. Like, how do we distinguish menswear, formal menswear,
this is
in this environment?
Right, and they kind of landed on this, like, it's not quite a bolo tie and it's not quite a necktie, it's both.
Yeah, he's got like this pendant at the top of it. It's all one piece, right? But it's almost like a brooch or something that connects the top, and then he's got just this dangling yellow necktie. And I love that he's got this necktie over what looks like this just flight suit or this like jumpsuit that wouldn't look out of place from anything that Slippy or the rest of Star Fox would wear.
Yeah, this is a fun little detail that we only know in this modern age where people can break open these games and view character models from angles they're not normally seen. This like gray jacket Beltino is wearing is emblazoned with a giant Space Dynamics logo.
Nice.
Which I think this is the first time we've seen a logo established for that company.
Yeah.
They are quietly a big deal. Again, they built the R-Wings. The like tutorial Tanuki from Star Fox 64 is supposedly the president of the company. This company turns up in F-Zero because they designed the character James McCloud in that game's F-Zero machine as kind of just a big glowing nod to Star Fox.
Right.
This same logo, if you look at like the artwork renders, it's on the rocket launcher in this, the homing rocket launcher in this game. It's a fun little indulgence. And again, speaks to... There just has to be a Bible for this stuff.
Yeah. And in the real world, this wouldn't be as fun. It'd be kind of gross, this military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
But, in this fantasy, like, tongue-in-cheek world of the Lilat system, yeah, it's cool to see. I like that they slap their logo on everything.
So Baltino being the first brand new character who has never, quote unquote brand new, never appeared in a game physically before. No previous actor to compare him to. He's played in this game by Scott Burns, who I didn't connect these dots before, but once I looked up his other credits, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this voice. I can't believe I didn't place it before. Played by Scott Burns. Like a lot of the other actors I went into in part 1, he did a lot of Humongous Entertainment PC games. He was the titular character Fatty Bear in Fatty Bear's Birthday Surprise.
My least favorite Brothers Bear.
And more relevantly to this episode, he was, our audience, he was the longtime voice for Bowser. The odd, speaking Bowser at the end of Sunshine, that's him. But also, this is not the only time Scott Burns has played a toad with a mustache. Because he was also the voice of Toadsworth.
Nice.
Which, now I am know that. I'm yeah, Baltino and Toadsworth are not dissimilar voices. This is pretty similar to the voice that's, the match announcer in Mario Power Tennis. Mm-hmm. And even continuing into Mario Tennis Fever.
Yeah. So, Mission 2... can I read the little loading screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is investigate base on Katina. And here's the thing. Star Fox Assault came out, about a year before Hurricane Katrina? And because of Katrina, I always want to say Katrina instead of Katina. So apologies if I make that mistake.
I will also just call, I keep calling it Katina. I think the only time we've heard it out loud, General Pepper says it in this game, and he says it Katina.
Cotton. Oh, well, that's hard to say. I'm not going to remember that.
I just default to Katina because it's not like Facina where there's very clearly a cemented in pronunciation they want you to use.
And it's close to Cantina, which is a famous location in Star Wars with all the wacky extraterrestrials and do. So, it's just ingrained in the brain to say Katina instead of Katina.
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 Which sounds like one of the characters from Akira.
Right,
Akira.
And you'd have to say it with the jowls, like General Katina. So, okay. A base in the hinterlands. God, I love the word hinterlands. Can I just say that? Can I just embrace the word hinterlands? It's
a good word.
It's such a good word, and I love using it whenever I can. A base in the hinterlands of Katina has been attacked by an unknown assailant. At the same time, invading forces, thought to be aperoids, have struck in several places throughout the Lilat system and have interrupted all communications. Discover who sent the SOS signal and why. So, one thing I want to point out is aperoids is never capitalized in this game, which is odd to me.
That is odd because, I'm used to fictional species just always being capitalized. Kremlings are always capitalized. Naughty's always capitalized.
I do default to capitalizing aperoids because I feel like it should be a proper noun. And I don't know if this is just a decision made by the localization team not to capitalize. It's not actually a proper noun. We're not going to give it that gusto behind it, but I don't know. It's just a weird it feels wrong. It feels wrong to see
I feel
it.
like even just in the name of trademark defense nowadays, you'd probably see it capitalized.
Yeah, yeah. And I could see that maybe the, Cornerian Defense and General Pepper, they just have such contempt and disgust for them that they're not even going to capitalize what they're called. But it is odd.
Yeah. So this is your first on-foot mission. Kind of like, you may not know it yet if you're coming into this game blind, but this is the bulk of what you are going to be doing from now on. And this was something that got lost because the facial animation's broken. In the briefing cutscene, Crystal wants to join Fox planetside on foot. But he kind of rebukes, like, no, I want you all in our wings covering me from above, like, to keep me safe in case stuff goes down. I didn't read anything into this in the version of the game we got, but in advance of this episode, I just kind of went through every Japanese version of these cutscenes. Crystal Archive was very helpful for this, for the ones that involved Crystal. They know what they're about.
Yeah.
They have 4K uploads of every briefing scene with Crystal with the Japanese animation synced to the English audio.
Wow. That's dedication.
Yeah. But it made me aware, between the lines implication of this was like, Crystal seems to have been dropping a hint here, because when Fox turns her down, she just kind of sighs in disappointment. Like, she did just like genuinely want to come along with him.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't this like sort of stoic, like, innocuous interaction. And I thought that's a little bit fun, and again, gives her more personality than I initially assumed from the version of the game we got.
Right.
Yeah, Fox arrives at the base, suspiciously abandoned for having an SOS signal. Despite this being Katina, there's no sign of Bill. And I love Bill, but I also think that's fine. Not every Star Fox game needs to be a parade of every beloved character.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I love characters. That's really what I'm about with any shared universe, but particularly the DKU. I love when a character that we know and cherish shows up or is even acknowledged in any way. But it's okay when they don't show up at this, like, it's one of those things where it doesn't make sense for Bill to be involved in this story anywhere. Like, you could have maybe worked him in, true, but I think the story they're telling is fine without him.
It's also in his best interest to stay out of this story, given what happens to everybody in it.
Yeah, it's not an adventure I would want to partake in. If I had to choose, I'd be like, no, I'm staying out of Star Fox Assault because I know what could happen to me.
No, can I go down to Soria?
Yeah.
check in on Shibunga.
Yeah, I'll just hang out in Thorntail Hollow.
Buy some Dumbledag pods.
Yep. So, yeah, this is the first on foot, and I feel like this is where the game would really drop off for anyone expecting Star Fox 64 again, expecting the same kind of on-rails gameplay. This would be an immediate kind of off-putting experience. They'd be like, oh, this game isn't going to be for me. So I feel like this is when a lot of people who never came around to the game or never gave it a shot kind of pieced out.
Yeah, I think either here or maybe the level after it, because it's still not apparent that this is just going to be the default state of the game. Mm-hmm. You might think like, okay, we're going to trade off. This is a different type of level. We're going to get back to on rails R-wing shooting next time. Not quite how it works out.
No.
Yeah. So Fox goes into the base, trips an alarm on the way in. It turns out this was a trap set by the Aproids. They appear en masse, surround him. He can take them out pretty effectively with his blaster, but they're still just everywhere. So he asks Peppy to send him a Landmaster. This is kind of the grand return to the Landmaster. It gets a lot of pomp and circumstance for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But it is beamed in from the Great Fox in a very inconvenient, far away position from Fox, immediately surrounded by aperoids. And Fox laments that, the transmission system's targeting is as sterling as ever, which, I feel like we have a taste of this from a earlier game, because Star Fox Adventures had a similar setup to why you had to collect fuel cells.
Yeah.
In that game. They were dropped down to the planet by Rob for you to fuel your R-Wing, but were dropped very poorly, so they ended up strewn all about everywhere.
Yeah, maybe they should have invested all that money into this rather than making everything on the Great Fox shiny.
It's like you do a full home renovation, but you don't fix your broken microwave.
You're right.
And in addition to setting up the basic, all-range structure of these, where you're on foot, but you can also get in the Landmaster, freely dismount it, and you kind of are established, the Landmaster has a lot greater firepower than you on foot, but it can get into fewer places, it's not as nimble, and you do sort of share a health meter with it to some extent, so you can't be too reckless. This also introduces the concept of aperoid hatchers, which will become a core gameplay mechanic in most levels of this type, or some variation thereof, which is basically there are enemies everywhere in these levels, but you have a core objective, which is to get rid of the hatchers or similar object that are endlessly spawning them.
Right.
And it also drills in this, if you hadn't picked up on it already, that the aperoids at this stage are basically a pest infestation. They are bugs laying eggs to propagate themselves, and they don't seem to have any greater goal than that.
And there's the question of where did these things come from? Where are they originating? Why are they just suddenly attacking? But there is kind of a secret behind the knowledge that already exists of them, because we learn that there was an appearance by an aperoid, 17 years before the events of Assault?
Yeah. 17 years ago, we learned from Beltino Toad that an entire fleet was destroyed by a sole aperoid of the same type you fought in the last mission.
The big butterfly type thing, yeah.
Right.
And
so they are extremely dangerous.
What this reminds me of, and I'm going to bring up Star Wars again, I apologize, but this is Star Wars in the expanded universe. This reminds me of the Vong a little bit in Star Wars, where for those who don't know, in the Star Wars expanded universe, there was this antagonist in the New Jedi Order series, where they were this extra galactic invading force of they didn't use technology, they just used organic matter, and they were very creepy, and it was almost like horror movie infestation of the Star Wars universe, or galaxy to be more literal. And they come from another galaxy, but there were appearances of them in the years and decades and even millennia before their full-scale invasion. There would be close encounters with them on the peripheral, and there would be these weird unexplained occurrences before the Vong fully assaulted, to use the term, the Star Wars galaxy. And that's kind of what the aperoids remind me of in Star Fox Assault. This thing that they were aware of was out there, but didn't fully have the ability to understand yet.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that there is this sort of slow rollout of you learning what the aperoids are, but there also seems to be this sort of the aperoid forces as they appear are diversifying. Still at this stage, they are very much still very insectoid, but as opposed to the first mission where we only saw the very butterfly aperoids. Now that we know that they're sort of attacking places all over the Lilat system, we've started to see these like sort of spaceship-like ones appear in the sky, which is what all of your wingmen are fighting while you're on the ground.
Yeah.
And this new type, the boss that shows up, Divergent, which is this extremely large creature that's vaguely like it's UFO shaped, but it has legs. Like kind of like a saucer bug. You need to hover on top of it with the Landmaster after like destroying a core that's below it that then becomes exposed on top. It does feel like this game's sort of taking advantage of something Star Fox 64 may not have been able to do on this scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so much of this game is, I think, like, such an upgrade from Star Fox 64, but it's not immediately apparent, like, how much more real estate it has to work with. And given the type of game it is and what it's able to do, you know, because Star Fox 64, aside from its, like, all-range mode abilities, even those were very stilted, and
they tended to take place on a flat plane or in space.
Yeah, and this, because your default generally is on foot, and then you can jump into vehicles when appropriate, it actually really just opens it up completely, and it really allows far more possibilities. And that's, like, I don't know if it's immediately apparent though in this mission, as it will later become. Once the game starts clicking with you and you realize exactly what it's pulling off, you're like, oh, okay, this is why this is my favorite Star Fox game, that involves space combat and, you know, just what you think of as the traditional, like, Star Fox mechanics. But it does so much with it, and I like how overwhelming it can feel at times as well. But that's something we'll probably get into in a later mission.
Yeah, at this stage, even with that spectacle, the Katina base is one of the smaller maps in the game without a lot of, like, distinct sights to see.
It's kind of drab. I would say that out of all of the missions, this is the one that feels the most bleh, or looks the most bleh.
It's also one of the ones that's, like, least informing the world building of the Lilat system, in part because this is a place we've already been.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not that
and
interesting.
Is deserted when we arrive.
Yeah, so it's not that interesting in comparison to what immediately came before and what will come after, but there is a neat character reveal here.
Yeah. So after we defeat the boss, Star Fox at this point is mindful that they do need to get the core memory because they failed to get a complete one last time. But immediately after defeating the boss, the SOS signal that brought them to the planet stops transmitting because that SOS was sent by Pigma Dengar, who flies in and absconds with the core memory.
Oh, God, Pigma. Pigma, I think, one of my favorite villains in all of Nintendo. He's just despicable in all of the right ways.
Yeah, he's like that exact calculus you want from a villain, where, like, this guy is an absolute disgusting piece of shit. I love him every time he shows up. He's always a highlight.
Yeah.
Of anything he's in.
The manual describes him as a greedy miser who thinks of nothing save for his own gain. His life has been one double cross after another. His overwhelming greed and unreliability got him kicked out of Star Wolf. So Star Wolf has really been trimming the fat, so to speak.
Yeah. I do kind of wonder, was Andrew or Pigma cut first? I'm inclined to believe that Pigma got cut later.
Yeah.
Because As we'll find out later, Star Fox do not seem aware just yet that Pigma was kicked out of Star Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time we've seen Pigma in this sort of realistic style. All the other returning characters we've seen so far appeared in Star Fox Adventures, so we at least had like a baseline of what do they look like outside of this polygonal style of Star Fox 64. This redesign is disgusting, and I love it.
Yeah, he almost looks like he doesn't have pupils. It almost looks like he's got such beady eyes that you can't even see it, and it just looks like he's got like milky white eyes.
Like they're like glazed over, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like his spacesuit, like a lot of characters in this game kind of wear like space onesies. I feel like Pigma's is almost designed to look like he's like wearing a like ill-fitting undershirt in his underwear. Like it's just very slovenly looking.
His jumpsuit is pink. It's a darker hue of pink than his skin. But if you're just glancing at him, he almost looks like, because he's got this like breastplate on top of it that's kind of whitish or silverish. But if you just glance at him from the corner of your own eye, he looks like he's wearing a brassiere or some type of chest
some kind
support.
Of support garment.
Yeah. And he's just got like a loincloth on, which is his belt. But he's very round. He's got like, again, spindly arms and stubby little legs. So he's just like MODOK from Marvel. Like he looks like he's just this enormous rounded shape with dangling appendages.
He also has these like 3 scars on his head that are never explained. I kind of like to think maybe Wolf gave those to him on the way out.
Yeah, they got into it. That would make sense. But yeah, he is repulsive. I think out of all of the pig characters, and look, I've said some things about pig characters. I see Traveler of the Stars has joined us. Traveler of the Stars, this is not the point in the podcast where I'm going to besmirch Professor Chops, but I have said some things about some pig characters over the years, whether it's the Knights of Hamelot or, Professor Chops. But generally speaking, for whatever reason, a pig character can be hit or miss with me. And a large part of that is the render and how they are presented. And if there's any joke beyond they are a pig, or they are fat. And Pigma, though, he leans into all of the stereotypes on all of the tropes. Pigs are actually very intelligent creatures, and they're not like idiots, or they're actually very clean. They're not even like those stereotypes of pigs just wallowing in filth. Pigs are actually pretty hygienic. And so, that being said, I love that Pigma just leans into all of the negative ideas we have about swines, and he wears his freak flag, or he waves his freak flag pretty damn high, and he is just detestable, and I love it. I love what a repugnant being Pigma is, and this is the game that really just takes it to its zenith.
Yeah. Even just like this game really can't get enough of driving home what a sleazy scumbag he is, to the point that again, for reasons that will be drilled in later by learning he's no longer with Star Wolf, Pigma is flying a new ship in this game, which seems to be kind of a, like by the Lylat system definitions, a like beater. It's like kind of wobbly and like spewing smoke. And it has a sexy pig lady painted on the side.
Of course it does.
Yeah, he's played with a very different take by Lev Lieberman. Only other Nintendo credit I could find is he's a narrator in Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. But this is another like very different performance, but I also think fits the character. He's very like burbly and like slurry, kind of like almost sounds like drunk.
Yeah.
The comparison point that I hit on, which is kind of relevant. You've seen Men in Black, right?
Yeah.
Right, Hyle?
Yeah.
He reminds me of Vincent D'Onofrio's character, Edgar, when he gets
Yes.
taken over by the bug aliens, and they are like kind of grossly shambling to approximate a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which,
Yep.
there's some maybe irony to that.
You might say foreshadowing a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, love Pigma, love seeing him again here.
Yeah, I would say this mission is probably my least favorite of the game. And I think it's unfortunate that it comes as early as it does. Now, it does do a good job of giving you the feel of how these missions are going to go when you're not in the R-Wing the whole time. And I think it's important.
It has the unenviable position of having to be the baby steps into this brand new sort of
Yeah.
like way these levels are mechanically structured.
Yeah.
Because some of these later ones are going to get very, very brutal.
Yes.
And
so
you kind of need that easing into the deeper waters.
this is an important, as you said, like training ground to really know how the game is truly going to play. It's just, like I said, kind of drab, kind of lifeless a little bit. And I didn't know how I was going to feel about this game at this point based off of this mission. Now it does dramatically uptick and pretty quickly. So I would say if you are checking out Star Fox Assault for the first time, stick with it. Stick with it past this mission. It will get a lot better. This mission is important for kind of learning the controls, figuring things out. It lays a lot of important groundwork in your muscle memory for what comes later.
So, this next mission, I think, is a significant uptake, certainly in just luxuriating in Star Fox world building.
Yes. Yes.
Sargasso Space Zone, hostilities revisited.
Has Sargasso Space Zone ever been referenced in any Star Fox stuff prior to this?
Not that I could find. It's possible, but like I even tried like finding out, well, why is this called Sargasso? And I couldn't really discern a reason why. Because there is somewhat of a naming convention like Macbeth and Titania. Those are Shakespeare references.
Yeah, like Sargasso Sea, obviously. It's that region in the Atlantic Ocean. Very infamous in sailing. It's very stormy waters.
I guess maybe the implication is it's like international waters.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like they want you to make that connection. Like it's kind of a lawless area in the Lilat system, and you are not protected by political boundaries, so to speak.
Right. So we start the briefing. Star Fox have been trying to tail Pigma ever since he got away with the core memory, and they've tracked him to this space station, which seems to be like kind of like the space equivalent of like a pirate port.
Yep. And again, Sargasso Space Zone, I think that's immediately where my brain went, even if I didn't realize it. Like it's trying to make you think of the high seas. And this is really where we get our first proper look at the seedy underbelly of the Lilat system. Because everything prior to this, seen in all the Star Fox games, has been you're flying in on a mission, this area, no matter what its defined purpose is, it's either under attack or you are being attacked by the forces there. And then, of course, there's Dinosaur Planet, which is its own ecosystem, its own kind of closed off world in comparison to the rest of the Lilat system. So this is our first look at kind of the world that some of the ne'er-do-wells that we've previously met trade in. This is the world they live in and hide in.
Yeah. So your briefing is intercepted by a character only labeled in the text as Ruffian. He's a monkey with a like Geordie LaForge visor.
Yes.
And like a turtleneck. Like clearly like some kind of like low life from context. And you can kind of tell visually, like this is paying forward the comment that most of Andrew's forces were just common mercs he hired.
Yeah.
That were unscrupulous, because all of the lowlifes you encounter in Sargasso are also apes of this similar type.
Yeah, I don't feel great that in the Lilat system, generally speaking, primates are just shitheads.
Yeah. I know that they're doing a like a dogs and monkeys thing that Japan does culturally, but It does have some weirdness to it, and it is a reason I kind of like Dash and Command for muddying the waters a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as a Donkey Kong fan, and as somebody whose favorite animals have always been apes and monkeys, I, of course, am like, what did they do? But, of course, Nintendo makes good on it with the whole Donkey Kong franchise. So, you know, I don't actually feel put out by it, but
I think one of the goons in this hideout is a lemur, so that's a fun.
That's true. Yeah.
One.
And, you know, even though a lot of the people Andrew hired are just mercs who had no actual affiliation to Andros, I do kind of get the sense that some of these might be deserters of Andros's forces.
Oh, 100%, especially because there are old Andros army crates in this hideout. Some of the enemy forces use like gorilla-shaped mechs. They also defend this hideout with these machines that spew barrels downstairs, like like Donkey Kong.
Oh yeah, I heard about that guy.
So yeah, this ruffian interrupts the briefing. Fox lays out, look, we're from Star Fox. We're only here for Pigma. We don't want any trouble. Just like send him out and we'll leave. And he gets rebuked. They tell him, we don't know anything about Pigma or any other fool. Now we know you're Star Fox. You aren't going anywhere. So this is kind of like a fight they didn't intend to have that they are now locked into.
Mm-hmm.
Just a complete communication breakdown. And it is just kind of this unforced error escalation as Star Fox wants to hunt for Pigma. They're being attacked en masse by everyone at this like criminal hideaway. So they have to like thin out the herd that's attacking them. They have to get rid of the transfer gateways that are teleporting them in. This is sort of like the organic equivalent of the Aperoid hatchers. They just endlessly spawn enemies. I think they're just teleporting mercs in from elsewhere to kind of try and overwhelm you.
Yeah.
It is also hard to deny. We talked about like the ambiguity of death in the Star Fox universe. You are just kind of shooting people in this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're in, like, body armor, but it is just what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, in these violent skirmishes, yes, I think it's pretty clear that Star Fox is claiming some lives here. But again, these are like all kind of pirates. They're not presented as like you are intruding upon this sovereign space. Like, this is the underbelly of the criminal networks of the Lilat system. And
right. And they have trapped you in. It's a matter of defending yourself as well, because they will overwhelm you.
Like you said, this is kind of a quickly escalating situation where Pigma has absconded with his core memory. We don't really know why he wants it, but he's got it. And he's, like, fled, and you're looking for him. But then, you know, you go into this criminal den, and then it becomes just this series of events where, they're going to be defending their turf from you, and things just quickly go pear-shaped from there.
Complete unforced error on both sides.
Yeah.
And when that ruffian intercepts the briefing, he tells you this is Lord O'Donnell's territory.
Uh-oh.
And if you're versed in your Star Fox lore, or even just played Super Smash Bros. Melee and read the trophies, or was it Smash 64? Either way,
it's Melee.
Yeah, the one whichever one name dropped Wolf's last name.
Oh, okay, wow.
That's the last name of Wolf O'Donnell, leader of Star Wolf, mysteriously absent from his hideout, who obviously at some point is going to return home and find it shot to pieces by Star Fox and be not too happy about it.
Yes. So it's funny because the first two missions of this game reintroduce members of Star Wolf, but they're no longer with Star Wolf. So we've got Andrew in mission 1. We've got Pigma, who shows up in mission 2, but they have both been fired by Wolf in the time between Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Assault. And like you said, Pigma's departure must be relatively recent because it's a new development for Team Star Fox, but also they have not replaced, presumably, Pigma with a fourth member yet.
Yeah, it creates kind of a weird dynamic with Star Fox because up to this point, you're just sort of used to the idea that Star Wolf have one-to-one equivalents with the members of the Star Fox team, but we've caught them in sort of this weird transitionary period where that's no longer the case.
Yep. I kind of like this. I kind of like that your brain isn't just defaulting to Star Wolf is the dark mirror counterpart to Star Fox, and this character aligns with that character, and that character aligns with that character, because this is the game that actually fleshes out Star Wolf, and specifically Wolf O'Donnell. This is the game that really makes them into compelling characters. And I think by taking that off the table, by removing that just one-to-one comparison with Star Fox, you're able to look at these as real characters with room for growth rather than this is Fox's Wario.
Yeah, these three are kind of the breakout characters of Assault, even though two of them already existed before this.
It's true, though. Okay, I did not really care about Wolf as a character, as a concept, prior to this game. I never really got into they've got to make him a fighter in Smash Brothers that other people got into, based off Melee, like the whole Samurai Gora type thing where, that's a reference, so you've got to make that into a full character. I want that. I liked Star Wolf in Star Fox 64, but it was Pigma that really stood out to me. And this is the game that made me realize, wow, Wolf is an interesting guy.
Yeah, I think there was always a lot of love, like, among fans for Star Wolf, myself included. I loved them in Star Fox 64. But when you get right down to it, they are pretty... Like, what they're about is kind of ill-defined. What they're about as a group in Star Fox 64 is kind of ill-defined. We only really have, like, well, they're working for Andros. Pigma, we have his backstory. Andrew's a Nepo baby. What are Wolf and Leon getting out of this? Do they have any... Like, they're clearly mercenaries of some kind, and they're clearly positioned as, like, we are the evil counterpart of you.
Right.
Which I think there is... I think part of why they're beloved is just there is an inherent appeal to the idea of we are the protagonists, but we're shitheads.
Right.
That's kind of just that's part of what makes Wario appealing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the shadow self. It's the negative traits that have almost been expunged from a protagonist and turned into fully realized beings in their own right. And that's always fun, and it's always a very quick way to make a interesting character. But I like when you go a little bit deeper and when you flesh a character out a little bit more, and you realize there's actually more to these than their relation to Star Fox.
Yeah, there's so much more going on for Wolf in this game than just being a dark mirror of Fox. And to do that, they have to make some pretty broad changes. One of those broad changes being his shoulders. Wolf is... Wolf is kind of a beefcake in this game.
Yeah, I understand why the Star Fox games elicit the reaction they do amongst some fans. And, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to use the words of Jeff, yuck anybody's yum. It's not why I'm into the Star Fox series, but I do understand. I do get it. And so, I think it's really, this is the game, if Wolf is your thirst trap. This is the game you're going to want to pick up.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart choice that he is just more physically imposing than Fox. He seems a little bit older. He is definitely, like, much rougher around the edges. It's not just the eye patch anymore.
Yeah.
Which is also, like, kind of been redesigned as, like, this sort of, like, techno scouter.
Right, which is cool. Which is cool. I love that, like, he has also upgraded his gear. He's not just coming in as he was in Star Fox 64.
He's upgraded his gear, but taken a very different tack, where it's more like, instead of, like, Space Ranger, it's Space Raider. He's got this collar covered in spikes. His ensemble's very leather. Very, like, biker gangy.
Yeah. It almost looks like something from like a Marvel movie. Like, it looks like a very curated kind of superhero costume that you would only see in a big budget production. Just like the plating and the, like, different leather pieces on it, and it just full of little complexities, and a lot of it just for show, but there's also then the, like, practical elements that actually do serve him, like his bionic eye patch.
Yeah, and like with a lot of other characters, very different vocal performance in this game. Again, completely new actor, Grant Goodeve. This was a surprising pull for their casting, because Grant Goodeve is more prolific than you would expect for somebody doing a voice in the Star Fox game in the mid-2000s. He was a live action actor across a lot of, like, TV standards dating back to the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He played the eldest son in the show 8 is Enough. And, like, later seasons of it used a theme song sung by him. He's been in Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, T.J. Hooker, Murder, She Wrote. He's even in the revival of Twin Peaks.
Okay, so yeah, he's still active then.
He's around, but I know him best outside of Star Fox because he's also the voice of the engineer in Team Fortress 2, which, as a fun bit of trivia, the soldier in that game is played by Rick May, the original voice of Peppy Hare. So we kind of have, I've seen like fun fan art kind of mashing Team Fortress 2 and Star Fox up.
So the fact that he was in TJ Hooker means then we have our 6 degrees of separation between Star Fox and William Shatner and taking it back to Star Trek then. That's it's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. He was only Wolf in this game, but I think more than any other character, like we've already talked about how much Star Fox Assault defines Wolf. This performance for Wolf, I think, was also sort of there's no going back from this.
Yeah.
Because with the exception of Star Fox 64 3D, which was kind of trying to match the original game it was remaking as much as possible, I think every version of Wolf since has to some extent given him this like gruff, deep-voiced persona.
It's a great take on Wolf. I think this is maybe one of my favorite performances in the game. And yeah, it really defined the character for me going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of get more insight into Wolf's personality as the game goes on. Like right now, he's still very much just kind of in the antagonist role. He wasn't Star Fox 64, except, well, he kind of has right to be angry with you right now because you came into his house and wrecked all his furniture, basically.
Yeah, you basically came in with muddy shoes and walked all over the carpet.
So then we get into the only other returning member of Star Wolf who is still part of Star Wolf.
Right.
Leon.
Yes.
We also see him with like a design for the shoulders down for the first time.
Yeah.
He's very spindly in this game, which I guess makes sense because he's a chameleon.
Although he's not as spindly as Andrew. Like he's more swole than Oikony.
Like I think he looks the most like a version of the animal he is that just stood up.
Yeah. Right, he looks a little bit like Yuka, actually, now that I see it. But he's also got, similar to Wolf, he's got kind of the same leathery uniform, jumpsuit, flight suit, whatever you want to call it. Dark hues, like purplish, which really, again, maybe brings the ukulele comparison to mind because green and purple is the color scheme of those two characters. Rather than having a bat, he's wearing a skinned bat, I guess.
Yeah, it feels very like utility what he's wearing and like nothing else. So he's played in this game by David Scully. He seems to be a voice actor with a lot of range based on his other parts he's played. He's another Humongous Entertainment guy. Like, been in Spy Fox, Pajama Sam. He played a similar, like, thin, weird lizard in Sly Cooper as the character Dimitri. And he is Sergeant Major Avery Johnson in Halo.
Well,
the like gruff military guy.
Yeah, well, he's not gruff as Leon in this one. So the original Leon voice was much more refined. I would say there was something erudite about him.
I call it like Jeremy Irons-y.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's not this take on Leon.
No, this is a very like twitchy, crazed take on Leon.
Which I'm
I
wondering
think.
if we're just taking it as the progression of the character, like what has happened to Leon in the 8 years since we've last seen him? Like he's clearly gone a little bit unhinged, and he's like, considering that Wolf is cleaning house, like, all right, you're pathetic, you're a creep. I'm surprised Leon didn't get the axe, considering just what a jumpy weirdo he's become.
Yeah, I didn't think about this way until you brought that up, but we know explicitly in the 8 years between Star Fox 64 and Adventures, Falco left the team in part because he was going stir crazy from all the inaction, and Leon's role in this series is to be the dark reflection of Falco. So, like, what if this is just like representing what Falco would be like if he didn't get the breathing room he needed when he got it?
Oh, yeah. It is a fun take. Like, I know purists probably wouldn't like it, but I think
it's probably not my preferred take, but it is fun.
It's fun, especially with the new dynamics that their third new member kind of brings to the team, because you have this new presence, and he kind of brings the refined elements, so it kind of works to have Leon be a little bit more of the wild card.
Yeah, we have a new face in the form of Panther Caruso.
Which I can't hear the last name Caruso without thinking of the CSI Miami guy.
Like Caruso, I think is how they pronounce it. But yeah,
you put the sunglasses on and you hear yow.
Yeah.
Panther,
I love this dude.
Panther fucking rules, man. Panther is okay. So if like Crystal was by default the best new addition to Star Fox with Star Fox Adventures, I would say Panther is the best new addition with Star Fox Assault. And it makes sense given the kind of, not that Star Wolf is as like dark counterparty to Star Fox as they were in Star Fox 64 here, but I would say Panther is there to be more of a direct counterpart to Crystal, as this is our new member, and what relationship will they have?
Yeah. It's interesting because he's the new member, but he is not really in any way a dark reflection of Crystal. He's not even really set up as a rival to Crystal. As a matter of fact, I don't think he fires one shot from his Wolfen at her.
The relationship he has with Crystal is not one of antagonism, at least purely antagonism. He is there directly to kind of present almost this, and it's not really in play in this game. I may be looking a little bit too far ahead, but he's there to kind of be the dark romantic possibility for Crystal.
He's a space dandy. He's he's so fun. I found a official description of him that describes him as conceit is so great that those around him are embarrassed. That's his description in the instruction manual. So yeah, he's a self-styled ladies man, and it kind of sounds like Star Wolf traded one guy annoying for them to be around for another guy annoying to be around. But unlike Andrew, he is a genuinely top class pilot.
Yeah, so
he actually can back it up.
He's got the conceit that Andrew has. He's got the kind of high opinion of himself, but he is more of a self-made man than Andrew. And so therefore he is already more impressive.
Yeah. And he's got a sense of style, even if it's a bit overblown. He custom painted a rose on his Wolfen. He wants that to be his symbol.
Yeah.
He wears this like ornate spacesuit that's purple, silver, and gold. It almost looks like Buzz Lightyear-esque, but with like a different color scheme. And I think weirdly, in spite of being like such a cartoon character, he is probably the most normal member of Star Wolf. Like this is the guy from Star Wolf who could walk into Space Walmart and not get weird looks.
Yeah. Because he doesn't really make it his whole personality that he is this like gun for hire and he'll do any shitty job you want. His whole persona, his whole identity is I'm the suave ladies man, like you said. I'm the romantic lead in my own head, and therefore like he makes that his presentation, which does help make him seem weirdly more normal than even Wolf. But like I said, he's there to basically flirt with Crystal. And that could be icky if it's done incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want the Pepe Le Pew dynamic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like there was very much a way this character dynamic could have gone catastrophically wrong. But I think what makes it work for me is there is no question, like, there is no, like, power dynamic he has over Crystal in this game, because
Right.
part of it, what makes Pepe Le Pew uncomfortable, is that you have another character in physical distress who just wants to get away from him.
Yeah.
The most that really happens between Panther and Crystal is that she'll either kind of, like, humor him or, like, rebuke him. At which point he'll, like, kind of back down.
Yeah, he doesn't keep on with it. He's not like, what if, you're okay, you're gonna regret it. Hey, I'm back. Did you think about it? Like, he just lets it go. He drops it. Because he's so self-assured that he's just like, he's not gonna let it be an ego death that he was turned down by Crystal.
Right. So, yeah, once you have to, in the course of the gameplay, you have to leave the space station once Star Wolf is on the scene and defeat them to kind of bring tensions down. I do think a weird thing that happens gameplay-wise because of the structure of Star Wolf in this game is... And this kind of raises its head as an overarching, like, that's a little strange part of this game. Because Star Wolf are no longer one-to-one analogs for the Star Fox team, you aren't having to save Falco and Crystal from Star Wolf in this mission.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't really being targeted by them at all. Especially because, again, weird optics if Panther is shooting at Crystal.
Right.
So in exchange, you do have to save them. Slippy in this mission went inside the space station, so he's not in the equation. You do have parts where you have to bail them out because they have enemies on their tail, but they're just sort of the generic enemies around the hideout, which just kind of makes Crystal and Falco look very incompetent. But I get that they had to have some way for a character to get shot down in this mission so that you could fail it and lose out on the keep your party alive medal.
And honestly, I liked the jumping back and forth between the space station and outer space.
I forgot to even talk about that mechanic.
Yeah.
It comes up in two different missions in this game where the conceit is basically you're on foot trying to dismantle the ground forces, but at the same time there is an aerial battle where forces are slowly rolling in, battleship or battleship type enemies come in that spawn more, and eventually you have a meter that you have to keep track of at the top corner of your screen showing the enemy presence in the skies. And you can't let the meter fill or you will automatically fail the mission because the sky battle will just get overwhelmed.
Right.
I I did kind of notice it feels like in this mission there is a preset point where the meter will just like shoot up dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It usually happens at about the time I get to the attic area of the hideout.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Which does make it a little frustrating to play because it is like the least optimal part of the level to backtrack from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, I do like the tension, and it is doable. Like, I got gold in this, you know.
Once it is, like many things in Star Fox Assault, once you understand mechanically what you are supposed to do, you can kind of budget your efforts so that you aren't just kind of juggling.
Yeah. And I think it's still early enough in the game where you might not have that confidence yet. This is all still very new. And it's one of those things where when you come back to it, you're like, okay, yeah, this is pretty fun. And yeah, just the diversity of the on-foot interior space station missions and then jumping out into the R-Wing, going out, saving your crew. It's fun. It's really, like, it's not one of my favorite missions in the game, but I think it's a dramatic step up from Katina or Katana. By leaps and bounds.
It's hard for me to even objectively like quantify like which was more satisfying from a gameplay perspective because this is just doing so much character and world building work that I love.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For the world of Star Fox.
And I didn't expect Star Wolf to have such a prominent role in this. Like, you know, Star Fox 64, they are there to be antagonists. They are there to be nuisances at certain points in the game. I didn't expect Star Wolf to... Well, I don't want to get into exactly how they become important, but I thought they would just kind of serve the same role narratively in this game.
Right.
And this does a lot of groundwork laying to get to know the new composition of Star Wolf. But God, like, looking back, it does such a good job of like priming you to think one thing, and then it makes it all the better when their actual role in the game becomes apparent.
Right, like this level lays the groundwork that Star Wolf are no longer the team that are just, their whole existence is to antagonize you.
Mm-hmm.
They are an outside entity in this game. They're doing their own thing. Wolf is kind of cemented himself as like a crime lord in this. This.
And their whole like entry into the plot is you kind of stumble into their territory.
Right. You attacked them.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is a refreshing shift of the usual paradigm already where, you know, they're not just hired to fuck with you. Like, that's what Pigma is kind of doing, but we didn't know that Pigma wasn't affiliated with Star Wolf anymore up until this point. This is where we learn that, oh yeah, Pigma was fired.
Yeah, in a like break from the fire when Wolf is ready to back down, we learn that like he just tells Fox to his face they can't hand over Pigma because he's not part of Star Wolf, and they have cut ties on such bad terms that if he were to show up at Sargasso, all of Wolf's men would have chased him away.
Yep.
Which is also like the sowing seeds of like, yeah, Pigma was actually a step too far for the rest of Star Wolf.
Right.
He was too despicable. They are not just this team that's out to do bad things to get their jollies. They are mercenaries like you that are a lot more unscrupulous and self-interested.
Yep. And I think that also plants some important seeds for later that they have boundaries they will not cross. And it's just very, very deftly done.
So at the end of this confrontation with Star Wolf, we get the important insight in the Panther's character that he's a little too easily charmed by Crystal and ends up spilling the beans that they do know where Pigma went.
Yes.
The comm record is pointing them toward Ficina.
Yeah.
aforementioned Fortuna from Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
This,
Not to be confused with Fortuna, aka Dinosaur Planet, which is not to be confused with Dinosaur Planet, which is Saria.
yeah, so we get from the briefing, like, if you remember this planet from Star Fox 64, you'll remember it was a sort of battle in this barren, snowy wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that's apparently the whole hat this planet has, because that is still very much the case here. It's a planet of nothing but snow and ice.
Again, not to bring up Star Wars, but it is the trope of one planet,
It's Hoth.
one ecosystem, which I guess with snow, that can make sense given how far away a planet is from its sun.
It's a little weird if you're taking the Star Fox 64 map literally, where Ficina is very close to a sun.
Okay, true. Yeah, I don't know
think
what...
there might I can just accept there's like some sort of environmental condition on the planet that is making it
Right, there's something in the
extra
atmosphere.
snowy.
There's something in the atmosphere that's either blocking most of the sunlight and warmth, or some weird condition that's causing all this stuff. It's a weird extraterrestrial landscape. Who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things I can just accept in a sci-fi story.
Yeah.
But it turns out the state we saw it in Star Fox 64 might be Ficina on a good day, because Ficina at some point had a climate control center constructed on it that made it at least habitable, like to sustain life. But at some point after Pigma's arrival, the climate control center is out of order, and there is a forever blizzard currently encircling Ficina.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I think, a turning point in the game, because this is where I realized, oh shit, I'm having fun. I think this is the mission. If you get to mission 4, and this game still isn't doing it for you, then yeah, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, this is a mission where also a lot of like mechanics that'll just be cemented as part of the rest of the game come in. And this is also the mission getting back to the main story after we kind of diverted with this detour with Starwolf, and we are kind of starting to sow a little bit more of the more ominous seeds in here. And even part of that's just reinforced by the way this level is when you enter it, because bleak, darkened sky, and you are definitely feeling this blizzard, because it is like your first level in Gorilla Glacier and DKC. This snow is so thick that it is impeding your ability to see.
Yeah. It's very effective environmental storytelling, because you do feel the cold through like just the environment itself. Gorilla Glacier, Snow Barrel Blast, that does come to mind, because that is also a very effective use of the environment. It's not just there as kind of a background detail. Oh, it's snowy. No, you feel the blizzard throughout this.
I also think this is the first mission in the game where I think there's going to be a big disparity in how you feel about it if you are playing it casually versus if you are engaging with the combo system and trying for the gold medals.
Yeah.
Because I think in a casual run of this level, again, because a lot of the areas in this game are meant to double as multiplayer maps, they are very large. And if you're just sort of doing the bare minimum to clear the mission, which is your first objective is to take out the power cores of the generators that sustain a shield around the climate control center. Normally, it being shielded would be a good thing, but you can't get inside to turn it back on because the shield is up.
Right.
If you're just engaging with that, just going after the generators and then beeline it for the climate control center, there is going to be a ton of real estate in this level that you just do not engage with. That just feels kind of empty and unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But the nature of the metal requirements for this level, they have a pretty high threshold of enemy hits you're supposed to get. And the only way to really meet that threshold is to essentially maintain a very steady rhythm of Aperoid kills throughout the entire first segment. And you kind of have to do that by, while you're hunting for each of these targets, just stop and shoot at every single Aperoid that happens to come into your line of sight, because you're not going to be able to see them very well, but your reticle will hone in on them.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes this like balancing act of trying to keep the meter up, but also trying to clear the objective. And the level is also kind of designed to route you in a circle to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just becomes very apparent, like, yeah, okay, this game is very much designed mindful of this scoring mechanic.
And it's funny because even though I haven't played through this game 100% in like 15 years, when I was looking over your show notes and I got to this point, it just all came flooding back to me. I was like, I remember having to like just go Aperoid hunting towards the beginning to keep my combo meter up, and like, it just all came back to me vividly, like it was yesterday. And yeah, like this is where, if you are trying to get the gold medals, this is where that really, I think, starts to reveal itself of how you need to play differently if you are trying to reach that higher tier.
Especially since you have to play a lot more defensively because you lose health a lot easier. There's these enemies that debuted in Katina, but I think have kind of become a standout pain in the ass Aperoid to deal with. They're these sort of like snail-esque Aperoids.
Yeah.
That retreat into shells and fire homing missiles at you when you're far enough away. And when you get close, a head pops out of the shell and immediately tries to steamroll you. If you're in the Landmaster, it'll mean a huge chunk of health taken out of the Landmaster's health bar. If you're on foot, it's pretty much an insta-kill.
Right.
So there is a lot of, like, if you are following this in sort of this, the objectives in sort of a counterclockwise motion, you'll encounter them toward the end and really have to get defensive or lose a lot of progress. Right.
Yeah. And again, it's a learning curve. Like, you have to figure out the routes to take, what to avoid, and there's some trial and error there.
So once Fox takes out the power supplies, he can get into the climate control center. The Landmaster doesn't fit, so he has to get out. And it looks like things are going to be okay. But once the climate control center is back online, the security drones are also online, and they immediately start targeting Fox en masse.
I like how so much of the game up until this point is not so much the Aperoids, but it's just these situations they find themselves in while trying to figure out like what's going on with these Aperoids. It's, we're going to accidentally stumble into, not accidentally, but we are going to stumble into this pirate haven and then have all of these ruffians and then Starwolf itself target us. And then, we're going to activate the security in the climate control center and we're going to have to deal with that. And it's just a lot of basically like tripping over yourself while trying to deal with this much larger problem.
Yeah, this is in service of giving Falco a very good hero moment, though. The mission objective at this point just kind of becomes survive the security until Falco can come and rescue you in the R-Wing.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't take his R-Wing out into the storm before, but now that you've cleared the storm, the ceiling of the climate control center is open so he can pick you up. But you just kind of have to stall until he gets there by taking out the waves of security drones. The security drones sound like Slippy for some reason. It's just very obviously the same actor.
Yeah.
You get this very cool cutscene. I think An issue I have with Falco in this game, enforced by the gameplay, is, and it's an issue in Star Fox 64 too, but I think it's pronounced in this one, is that you have to balance that Star Fox is mechanically a game where you are going to have to bail out your teammates. You're going to have to save them from enemies that are overwhelming them. Even though, if the same thing happens to you, you're expected to deal with it yourself by somersaulting the R-Wing or just shooting better. So you get a lot of dialogue from Falco that is just apologizing that he is being a bad pilot and it's out of character.
Sorry! Yeah.
I think this cutscene with him is kind of important for reinforcing that, yeah, Falco is your, like, daredevil pilot. He is genuinely good and maybe a bit too flashy for his own sake, but he's genuinely a good pilot.
I also appreciate this moment, I mean, for very similar reasons, that this is a narrative. Is it a first where, like, Fox is the one who is saved by Falco or anybody from Team Star Fox?
Well, no, because he's saved by Falco in Adventures.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I think Fox... I don't know how on the ropes Fox was in that Andros battle. Like, I know Falco comes in...
Falco provides the bombs you need to defeat him.
Yeah, that's true. But I just mean, okay, in the course of just general Team Star Fox camaraderie, when they're all one unit together, like, this is, like, Fox has to, like, bide his time until Falco can pull his ass out of there.
Yeah, I know that there's at least, like, a couple moments in Star Fox 64 where a teammate will take down enemies for you. Like, Falco has a bit where he says, I guess it's your turn to be thankful if you saved him in the first level.
Yeah.
But it's built into the game design to not be essential for them to do that because they can get shot down.
Right.
This, I think, is, like, outside of Adventures, like, the first narratively required moment where Fox is on the ropes and needs someone else to save him or he's going to get killed.
Which I like. I like that Fox has to be kind of vulnerable for once and just kind of has to bide his time for one of his teammates to pull him out.
And I do enjoy this repartee you get between Fox and Falco where they do kind of give each other shit in a friendly way.
Yeah.
And because Fox now has to hitch a ride with Falco to get out of there, this segment introduces a brand new gameplay mechanic, R-Wing wing riding.
Yeah, so unlike the Super Mario Galaxy movie, there's not just a whole additional cockpit or two for Fox to sit in the R-Wing. There's no room for him to get in there with Falco or anywhere else. So he's just hitching a ride on the wing of the R-Wing. I mean, thankfully they're not in space, but I imagine it's still blistering cold. Considering.
I have to assume, like, Fox's boots are, like, partially magnetized or something for this to work.
I'm not even talking about him, like, falling off. I'm just thinking about the wind resistance against his face.
It's the bit in Archer about why you should never actually fight on top of a train. But yeah, I kind of get the impression that the reason these are structured the way they are is because Falco is giving Fox a ride and he has to bounce on the wing. Falco can't do any fancy flying, so he is at the mercy of all the enemies.
Yeah.
So for these types of sections and these types of sections only, because there will be another one of these, you are armed with a unique weapon, the plasma cannon.
Yeah.
This thing is very, very fun. It's a rapid fire over the shoulder gun. It's, like, kind of similar to the Star Fox 64 multiplayer guns, because those kind of had to keep up with the R-Wings. Unlimited ammo, very destructive. Only usable in these sections, which I guess it might kind of raise the question, like, why don't they use this normally?
Yeah,
if it's so good.
I want to say I headcanoned it back in 2011. I want to say, like, I thought maybe its power source is derived from the R-Wing itself, but...
That's exactly the kind of thing I've been telling myself. Like, maybe it's like routing power from the R-Wing, which does seem to have no difficulty just endlessly spitting lasers.
Right. So, like, I think it's not something they can just take in the field when they are on foot. Like, you have to have it hooked up to an R-Wing, but it's basically just diverting some of its own, like, plasma laser offensive capabilities.
Yeah. And I also assume, granted, these are characters that can run around carrying rocket launchers. But,
yeah.
like, I assume this is, like, a very heavy weapon, probably has a lot of kickback, probably overheats.
I'm sure when Fox woke up the next morning, his shoulder was giving him hell.
Yeah. So this is weirdly... These kind of turn the game back into a rail shooter, but a very different kind of rail shooter, like, more like a light gunny style rail shooter.
Yeah.
And I think they are a lot of fun.
So much fun. This is, like I said, this mission is where everything started to click for me. And I was like, I like this game. It's not even just I'm playing this because it's a follow-up to Star Fox Adventures. I'm playing this because I'm having fun. And that's always an important moment for me to hit with a game. It was like in Bonanza where I stopped caring about connections to Donkey Kong and I was invested in Bonanza. This is that moment in Star Fox Assault for me.
Yeah. It's also, I think, a good moment where this is not something that I like in spite of it not being Star Fox 64. This is something new added to the series I am enjoying on its own merits.
Yep.
And I did kind of learn in these segments, like, the radar is extremely imperative. You can kind of just very much get an endless chain combo of enemies. I think this is the easiest way to get a combo in the entirety of the game is these segments.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't use all of the tools the game provides you, you will learn you need to start using all the tools the game provides you. And yes, the radar is essential to that.
Yeah, if you haven't been engaging with the combo system up to this point, this will be a point where you start to see that meter go up and probably wonder what that's about.
Yeah, and you will like the way it feels, and you will want to chase that high.
So once there is a lull in the enemy activity, and you do kind of have a long period of having enemies swarm around, you at one point have to bail out Slippy as usual. I do like that there's kind of a character beat with him, where he's doing his usual thing, where he shows up to help, gets in over his head, has to be bailed out. Falco makes fun of him, calls him a basket case.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this moment a little bit later that I think was maybe meant to, like, play a little bit stronger, but is kind of, like, undermined by the nature of the presentation, where Slippy kind of sheepishly chimes back in and says, I'll do better next time. To Crystal, like, asking, like, hey, are you all right, Slippy? Pull yourself together.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of, like, showing, like, no, these characters, even though they give Slippy shit, do genuinely care about him.
I think that's important because Slippy is often just used as a punching bag, and he's often perceived as such.
Including in the movie.
I didn't like that line so much, but I do like that, especially Crystal brings that just pure empathy to the cast. And I know, like, in Star Fox 64, they're just a bunch of hotshot pilots, and then there's Slippy. And, like, maybe Peppy brings some kind of tempered wisdom there, but I think it is important to show, like, no, we love you, Slippy. We care about you. We're not giving you shit out of malice or just to get our jollies.
And being the worst pilot on Star Fox still makes you one of the best pilots in the galaxy.
Right. It's like Ringo, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're the worst beetle. You're still a fucking beetle.
But speaking of Slippy's worth to the team, once the enemy waves kind of calm down, he reveals he's been looking into, why did the security drones attack you? That was weird. They shouldn't have done that. And it turns out the security drones were aperoids.
Yeah. So this is kind of a twist. I said like they were just getting into these situations independent of the aperoid threat, but here we learn that the aperoids are more advanced than they thought, and it's not just a matter of, oh, there are big bugs coming in to the Lilat system. Danger. It's, wait, these bugs are perverting our own defenses?
I really appreciate that they wait until almost halfway through the game to play this card, that they're more than just mindless bugs.
Yeah.
Who have a lot of firepower and spread very quickly. This is like, oh no, this is a very dangerous thing they can do.
Yes, so they can actually assimilate, at this point, machines, and take them over and kind of make them aperoids as well.
Yeah, they can make them into aperoids. They seem not just able to control them, but to, like, contort and distort their functions, because after this information's revealed, Pigma comes back on the scene, reveals he's known that the aperoids can do this, and he has been the one pulling their strings. Supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I kind of get as maybe after he stole that core memory, the aperoids were kind of like whispering in his ear a little bit, like he kind of fancied himself like, well, I'm your boss now. I have the most intel on how you operate.
I'm the puppet master. I'm in control. Yeah. And that's just great hubris for Pigma, but it's also just anybody who knows storytelling knows where this is going. And
yeah.
you have some ill omens about what awaits Pigma here.
Yeah, so to once again buy time for him to get away, it turns out that their aperoids have infected a generator on the planet that has now become an animate boss, but because it is still a generator, it is at risk of overloading the power to the climate control center, and if it explodes, will just completely destroy it, any chance of the planet ever becoming habitable ever again.
Right. So a lot at stake.
Yeah, a lot more at stake than just getting the core memory back from Pigma.
I also just like how Pigma is just this like little rascal at this point, that you're just chasing Pigma around the Lilat system, and it's putting a very, I was going to say human, it's putting a very relatable face on this threat that's still very intangible, that's still very much unknown, and seems very completely voided of its own identity or intelligence. And so it's really clever the way they utilize Pigma in these early missions as kind of the one holding this MacGuffin that will maybe answer some questions. Also bringing that personal element given his history with Peppy and Fox. And it's really it's really slow walking you, the player, to the big reveals.
Yeah, you really buy him as this character who would just kind of play keep away and be annoying.
Yeah, it's a clever use of his character because it's in service to the larger story, which if you didn't have that, I don't think it would be very interesting at this point, given how just generic the aperoids still probably feel.
Yeah, he's a very core character, I think, to making this story work, and they use him in a very clever way to elevate the stakes as it goes.
Yep.
And kind of, I kind of get the impression the aperoids, similarly to how things could have gone very differently with Andros if he didn't betray James McLeod, I feel like the aperoids only become as big of a threat as they are because Pigma is working with them.
Right. Pigma kind of accelerates this situation dramatically.
He's gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason I love Pigma, it's twofold, right? I love Pigma because of his absolutely vicious one-liners in Star Fox 64, which feel way too hardcore for a Nintendo game.
Almost too mean.
Almost like out of just like the most heinous edgelord shit you would see on X.com. But this game in particular is really what sells Pigma for me as one of the all-time greats in the Nintendo Rogues Gallery. And it's just the way he makes a bad situation exponentially worse for everyone. And himself, even if he doesn't realize it at the time.
Right. So this boss, the aporoidation generator.
Aporoidation. It's clunky.
It's a clunky word, but it is reoccurring.
Yes. When I was digging through like screenshots and footage and materials for this game, and I kept coming across that, I kept trying to sound it out loud because I know me, and I know the trouble I get into trying to enunciate some words on this podcast. Go back and listen to the Bonanza episodes for more. So, aporoidation. Okay, I think I've got it.
Yeah, so as I said, because the aporoids can kind of not just take over technology, but contort it, they turn this generator, which I kind of assume is just a, like, silo full of, like, the tech powering the control center. It kind of turns into this, like, bacteriophage like shaped creature.
Yeah.
That can fly and also propagate smaller aporoids. At this point, Peppy is able to beam you an R-Wing, and you have a very limited time to take this generator out. It can only be damaged by direct hits to the internal mechanism with bombs. So you kind of get into this cycle of shooting enough enemies for it to open, which, it spits out enemies. The enemies drop bombs when destroyed, and then an exterior hatch on the generator will open to spew out more enemies. So you kind of get in this cycle where it becomes obvious, well, I can't damage it with lasers, I gotta feed it bombs.
Right.
And I think early on, I had some hard times like getting the bombs down the sort of like throat of this boss. I feel like it's something you get better at with practice.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I think this is where I really started to get not good so much, but better at this game, and it started to really click with me. And when I was going for my gold medals, I think this is where I realized I can actually pull this off. It just requires a lot of practice and finesse and muscle memory, but it does become strangely addicting here. And yeah, I love Ficina. I love Mission 4. But I think the important takeaway is that the aporoids can assimilate machines. And it's kind of an interesting inverse there because, I've compared the aporoids. I'm bringing up another sci-fi franchise. I'm bringing Star Trek back up. But I've compared them to the Borg of Star Trek, right? Just this kind of techno-organic force that just assimilates life forms. But here, it's the life forms assimilating machines, which is kind of a fun, interesting, novel idea. Now, at this point, we don't know if they can assimilate anything other than machines, but this is an important first step in divulging just how dangerous the aporoids are to the Lilat system.
Yeah, you kind of have this like quiet pontification moment at the end of this mission once you've destroyed the generator, where Fox just kind of chills planetside, kind of takes in the like Aurora Borealis above the planet. That's a very cool touch.
Yeah.
The whole team kind of just ruminates on fighting like an enemy that can turn your allies against you, with Peppy kind of brushing it off as like, well, they were only machines. It's like they don't have any willpower to resist this invading force that can turn them to evil.
No offense, Rob.
Yeah, I wonder. We don't really have a lot of like. I don't think Star Fox has some of the like fraught droid politics that Star Wars does.
Right.
Because but yeah, it does kind of seem like something Rob should be like, dude, I'm right here about.
If this was Star Fox Adventures, there would be a whole bit about it where Rob, would have some kind of one-liner and, well, not you, Rob.
Yeah, we get this very telling moment where Fox sort of thinks like to himself, those without strong wills can easily be turned to evil. Does that sound like anyone we know?
Well, there's not long to find out.
No.
Mission 5, which will be the last mission we cover on this episode. Yes, it's going to be a 3-parter. Mission 5, Asteroid Belt. The Aperoid Menace. And can I just read the loading screen mission briefing really quick?
Yep.
Mission 5, Hunt Down Pigma. Pigma's taking refuge in an asteroid belt. If you lose him here, you may never find him again. There are many aperoids in and around the asteroid belt, but you must fight your way through, capture or destroy Pigma, and recover the core memory. I like how they just leave it out there. Yeah, you might just have to fucking kill
Look, we've had
him.
enough. We've had enough of this shit.
Yeah, like he was already enough in the history of Team Star Fox up until this point, but this wild goose chase for the past several days at a very critical time in this possible invasion from this force from outside the Lilat system. Yeah, you know what? This might be the time we just kill him.
Yeah, a briefing on the shorter side this time, but I do like how they point out, like, obviously Pigma has fled to this asteroid belt hoping to lose everybody because it's very dense with R-Wing destroying rocks.
Yeah.
But there is a line here, because Falco's kind of giving him a speech about, like, how there's nowhere for Pigma to run. And Fox throws in, so, is this like an amusement park to a former gang member?
Yeah, which is very pointed towards Falco, who, of course, as we've discussed, was a leader of a gang, free as a bird.
I like how subtle a jab this is.
Yep.
And Falco takes it in stride. He just says, you know it.
All day and all night, baby.
So, Asteroid Belt starts off like pretty blatantly similar to Meteo from Star Fox 64, with the same music, even. Also the same music that was in every R-Wing segment of Star Fox Adventures up until Andros.
Yeah. So this is just R-Wing. This is just an R-Wing mission.
This is one of the few entirely on-rails R-Wing missions in the game after quite a long break. And it is like... It is very much a retreat back into... This is kind of the default state of Star Fox, I think.
Yeah.
Is R-Wings in an asteroid belt while this song plays.
But it's honestly kind of a nice breather after Fachina and the intensity and cacophony of shooting with the plasma gun on the wing of Falco's R-Wing. You know, it's just, it's a nice kind of come down, even though this is a pivotal moment in the story.
Right. I remember around the time this game came out, which, like, I was younger. I was playing prone to complain about just about anything. But I remember I kind of felt a little bit down on this level when the game was new because of how much of it was remixing elements from Star Fox 64. And not even just Meteo, but there's stuff from, like, Area 6, like the asteroids that chase you, like those are kind of like a Star Fox SNES thing. And I think at the time I was kind of like, oh, they can't do anything original, I see. But with the benefit of hindsight and not being a dumb teenager who just wants to whine about everything, I can see like, oh, a lot of this was purposeful.
Yeah.
They're
and
kind
also
of
in the
playing into the familiarity to turn it on its head as this goes.
And in the grand history of remixing things from Star Fox 64, this is far less blatant. Yeah, this almost is designed to kind of get you back into your comfort zone vis-a-vis Star Fox. And I think it makes some of the more unsettling reveals towards the end all the more effective as a result.
Absolutely. You kind of... So the level starts out very reminiscent of Meteo. You even have, like, the iconic, like, you're going to, like, use your brakes because the asteroids are going to crush you. Ooh.
Yeah. I love that bit. It's a great bit.
Yeah. But at about the midway point, they do something Meteo didn't do, which I think is kind of a thematic reverse of Sector X from Star Fox 64. So in Sector X and Star Fox 64, you go to Sector X with the intention of destroying one of Andross's bases, except when you get there, you find out it's already been blown apart. It's in pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to discover why. And it turns out it's because it got destroyed by a rogue AI. In this level, the surprise is that you are expecting like a barren sector of space that Pigma is just kind of going to cower in. But instead, you find a newly assembled space base that's sort of like churning out munitions for this like invasion effort.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the game's cooler set pieces. It doesn't really have like an equivalent in another Star Fox game where you have to like dodge like factory assembly robot arms. You see like enemy ships rolling off an assembly line. It's one of these things that does make me think like, yeah, this could have worked as an arcade game. This feels very like arcade set piecey.
And again, like it's surprising there actually wasn't an arcade equivalent counterpart to this, given that was the trend that Namco and Nintendo were doing around this time. Is, hey, let's spin this off into the arcades.
Yeah, the Aperoids at this point are also very clearly appropriating, like leaning into their ability to appropriate other technology. It's called out, they have assimilated the prototype from the first mission. Mm-hmm. It comes back covered in these like creepy purple spikes. And yeah, that's a taste of what's coming, that the Aperoids have kind of realized, oh, we don't have to like just propagate ourselves. We can use military weapons created by others against them.
Yeah. And that's this great blend too of like the technology you usually see in Star Fox games, but there is this organic element to it that is not usually there. And then that's not even getting into the whole body horror aspect we're about to broach.
Yeah, we're getting into some body horror here. I remember like genuinely being creeped out by this when I was younger.
It's so well done.
We glossed over this, because I think it would kind of give away where this was going. But
I think we've already given away where this is going.
Between this mission and the last, we had this interlude cutscene of Pigma kind of repeating this droning line in his sleep about like, obey us, obey us.
Yeah.
And then kind of seeming like he snaps out of it and then immediately relapsing.
Mm-hmm.
We see that paid forward here. Star Fox kind of exit the munitions manufacturing into this empty open area. They find Pigma's ship abandoned. Oh, that actually reminds me of a major thing we skipped earlier in this level. The very first thing you see in this level are 3 Wolfens completely abandoned. And Crystal gives the reason, gives the explanation that apparently Starwolf abandoned ship.
How do you abandon ship in space?
I don't know how you... So, I'm not sure how you abandon ship in space. I think of all things, Starlink might have an explanation.
Oh, really?
Because in that game's DLC, where the other members of Starwolf come back for revenge, in that time period, it is still Pigma, Leon, and Andrew. There is a mission where you essentially have to hunt down Leon and deliver him to space jail. And what that mission kind of establishes is you can apparently rip the cockpit of a Wolfen out from the rest of its assembly, and like it will still like support with oxygen and everything. It just can't move.
So it's like almost an escape pod.
Right. And the Wolfens we see in this level are intact, but like I can take that as just a like conveyance thing.
Sure.
You're not going to make a bespoke Wolfen model for this. But I can kind of see that being the explanation, because otherwise I don't know how the hell they would have survived doing that.
Right. But yeah, so you think there's a possibility that maybe Starwolf have been eliminated. Like, we don't know their fates yet.
No, but you kind of take for granted, well, they're Starwolf. They're not going to get killed off screen.
No. They wouldn't kill off any major characters.
No, especially not someone who was involved with Starwolf. So anyway, Pigma's ship is abandoned, but they spot this very strange sight. There's a sort of giant metal saucer floating in space, and in the center of it is a, like, biografted, distorted version of Pigma.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if we have the words to do this justice. I would recommend anybody who's curious just look up a walkthrough on YouTube, because it is so upsetting.
He's like half puddle in this. It's...
Right. Remember when I said General Pepper looked like his flesh had been melted off and then solidified as a puddle on his face? Well, this actually happened to Pigma. He has what's the character from Doctor Who that's just a big sheet of skin? Anyway, there's a character in Doctor Who. She's just a big sheet of skin in the future. She's like the end
Cassandra.
Yes. The end state of like plastic surgery, where you just become the like cleaved off flesh, no bones attached.
Microwave melted action figure is kind of the vibe I get from Pigma.
So Pigma is still alive, sort of, but he's been completely assimilated by the Aperoids and grafted to this technology. And
he seems to have like one last moment of like self-awareness where he's tripping on the pure power of the Aperoids before just completely losing himself to them.
Yes. Are the Aperoids a hive mind? Is that established yet?
I think this is the moment that establishes that they are.
Okay. I wasn't aware. I was forgetting how clear that was made in the story up until this point, or if that was a later game reveal. But I think, yeah, this kind of tips the hat towards the Aperoids are a hive mind, and when they assimilate a living being, which they can now do, that living being loses their sense of self.
They lose their sense of self, and the Aperoids gain all of their existing knowledge.
Yes. It's like, sort of like the vampires and sinners, where everything that person knows is now part of the collective.
So yeah, Pigma has totally lost himself here, and that's very evident as he starts speaking in this very unemotive monotone with a, like, even more booming, like, filter over it.
Mm-hmm.
I should mention at this point, Pigma mutates even further to where his original body just is no longer present. It's just this, like, weird, contorted, like, stretched out mesh of, like, techno-organic flesh.
I hate this.
It's disgusting looking.
So one of the things I do genuinely have a problem with is body horror. Like, I can't do Cronenberg. I can't watch the Jeff Goldblum The Fly because it just squicks me out so much. Like, I feel uncomfortable by it. Like the Clayface movie that's coming out later this year. I'm like, no, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can sit through this. And this is one of the few moments in the entire DKU where I am uncomfortable by what's being presented.
And I do think they do a good enough job abstracting it, so, like, this is, like, not quite gore.
No.
Like, it is very sci-fi and cartoony, but it is creepy.
It's creepy when you think about it. And this is a character who had been with us. I mean, granted, it was only, like, in real world, and I guess in universe, 8 years since Star Fox 64 at this point. But, I mean, that's a long time from childhood to adulthood, or however old you were at the time. Like, this character had been part of this series as we knew it, and he was effectively no more.
Yeah, even just being one game, Star Fox 64 was a game you were expected to replay time and time again, so you saw Pigma a lot.
Yeah. And given how
I think
memorable...
he is a character that is just beloved for being completely irredeemable.
Right. He's very memorable, and so this both at the same time feels very uncomfortable to see this happen to him, but it also does feel like some sort of karmic justice.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, like, I want to lament that it seems like this beloved character isn't really going to be the presence in the story he once was. But also at this point, like, this is a satisfying end for this character because he fully had it coming. He
had it coming going back to the backstory of Star Fox 64, like the backstory that we see play out in game in the upcoming Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch 2, June 25th. You're welcome, Nintendo. But what I also really like about this, and we've touched upon this, is that it's not just Pigma finally getting got and Pigma having a lifetime of selfish bad deeds catch up to it, but it's also Pigma instigating this apocalyptic scenario for the Lylat system based on that lack of foresight, that lack of thinking about anything but his own material gain, because he is patient zero for the Aperoids beginning the organic assimilation of life forms in the Lylat system.
Right. It would be hard to argue he didn't go out a very significant character in this game. He has kind of been the driving force, and the ramifications of what he did, like, are kind of the fallout in the entire rest of the game.
Because we know
things do not get this bad without Pigma.
We know the Aperoids had appeared in the Lylat system 17 years prior. So the question is, could this have just been a momentary blip like that was when, Peppy and them encountered them? Or did Pigma exasperate the situation and create the snowball effect where now all of a sudden the Lilat system is at genuine risk of being overtaken?
Right. Like, was this even the moment when the Aperoids realized they could assimilate organic life? Because maybe they just never ran into someone as incredibly despicable and weak-willed as Pigma,
right,
to let it happen.
Right. It's interesting, and we don't really have answers
he bridged
to that.
the gap.
Yeah. Like, the game doesn't go that far into the whys of the Aperoids, so it is, like, a fascinating thing to ponder. Did Pigma exasperate and effectively cause this entire story? Like, would this have just ended in mission 1 if Pigma... Maybe mission 2, if Pigma hadn't
Mission 2, once they got the core memory.
Yeah, if Pigma hadn't gotten involved.
Yeah. And his boss fight... his boss fight is very Area 6 from Star Fox 64. I feel like it's very, very similar to the... Like, saucer you have to destroy... by shooting at its armaments from the outside and then shooting the core, which in this case, the core is Pigma's face.
Which feels very satisfying to shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, in a series full of big heads to shoot, this is a very, very interesting one.
It's the first time where a big head fight feels so personal, and it doesn't just feel like this abstract video gamey mechanic.
Yeah, and when you win this fight, you maybe put Pigma out of his misery. It ends in a huge Star Fox 64 style explosion with a very visceral scream.
Yeah,
from Pigma, and there's no real comment on it. Nobody really says anything after Pigma dies. They just sort of let the moment sit.
I mean, what can you say at that point?
Yeah, what can you say? It's nobody liked him.
And nobody's going to be making a quippy Joss Whedon style remark. This game had too much restraint for that. And you can't even revel in the relief that he's gone, because you're taking in like, oh shit, this is really, really bad now. I said this game is dripping in cheese. And part of that is because of the broken animation in English-speaking territories. But I do think this game does an effective job of letting moments land and just sitting with it where the drama calls for it. And yeah, sometimes I think the more cynical player can come into this and be like, okay, it's still overwrought, it's still hammy.
It's still a little cheesy, but there's always like the 2 degrees of separation where you can see the ideal version in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do like that, yeah, like Pigma is dead. You've killed Pigma. I mean, Pigma was effectively already gone because of the assimilation. The Aperoid did... The Aperoididation? Do I have...
Aperoididation.
What is it?
There's 2 D's in there.
Aperoididation.
Which is weird.
That does not come easy.
It's a very odd way to phrase it.
Oh, yeah. I am going to struggle with that throughout part 3. Just heads up. I'll try to practice betwixt the shows. But yeah, this is like a heavy moment because they have killed off Pigma. And not only have they killed off Pigma in like this really horrific, like grisly end for the character, but also Pigma has, like we said, effectively launched the full-scale assimilation of the Lilat system into the Aperoid colony. And at this point on, the game really escalates. The game really steps up. You're no longer just playing this cute little game of tag with Pigma throughout known and new locations in the Star Fox system.
I think this is a good use of Pigma for escalating dramatic stakes, because killing him off is a big swing to take, because he is a beloved character even though he sucks. But it lays on the table the possibility of, well, if this game is willing to kill Pigma off and take him off the table, well, who else might not be safe?
Right. If there are no sacred pigs, are there no sacred cows?
And, like, of course, this series would find ways to keep Pigma around. But
yes,
this is for all intents and purposes a permadeath.
Right, and we've seen a permadeath with Andros, but I mean, who even knows with Andros, given he was already dead when he came back and died again. So this does feel, though, different. This feels like, okay, if we're actually icing long existing characters in the franchise, who else is expendable? And then you look over there at, like, Peppy, who's retired. And you're like...
Yeah, whenever a character references retirement, it's not good.
Yeah, and so I think my mind immediately, at this point in the game, started looking over at Peppy and started tugging my collar a little bit. Things are spiraling in the Lylat system at this point. So it feels like a really shitty time for us to break and to say to be continued. But I think it's the best time to say to be continued, because as the Aperoids begin their full-scale assimilation of life forms across the Lylat system, their first immediate target, Soria, Dinosaur Planet. The location of Rare's beloved, in our circles, 2002 Star Fox Adventures, and home of Tricky. DK Vine Hall of Famer, Tricky. And so, I know you and I are going to talk quite a great deal about the next mission, and honestly the mission after that. So many good moments in the game from here on out.
Yeah, that's the thing. This game is very good at setup and payoff.
Yes.
So we're going to get into a lot of good payoff in this later half.
And to hear our thoughts on that, you're going to have to tune into part 3 of our Spotlight series on Star Fox as well. I'm going to say it's going to be 3 parts. We're not going to make it 4 parts.
No.
This is going to end in the next installment. However, there will be another episode in between. Dustin and I are going to do a character witness on Guard the Swordfish, because why not? But we are going to... It might honestly be a bonus episode in our regular schedule. Stay tuned for details. But yes, on the next installment of our Spotlight series, we will be returning to Dinosaur Planet. No, not that one. The other one. We will be returning to Soria and catching up with, well, I was going to say Prince Tricky, but maybe, I love we're getting ahead of ourselves. To be continued next time. Please don't let any bugs crawl in under your skin.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.